Friday, Billy.
I don't know how long.
It's Friday, Billy. 6
Yes, it
a.m.
is.
in the Mile High City.
It's awfully early.
I,
We're sure this is a good idea to start this thing this early.
you
There are
know,
days I wonder.
I was up
Make bad
at 4
choices.
a.m. getting the animals taken care of.
Oh, I beat you by about a half an hour. It's no fun.
3:30.
Yeah, not many people know there are 2 3 o'clocks every day. I see both of
And
them.
you are a wild man.
I don't think wild. I think dumb would be
Eh,
the proper
You were
description.
born this way.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm a god
Weren't-
or not. But
Weren't
yeah.
you? Weren't you always early in the morning?
Yeah, I was. I was always an early kid. I was always a problem for the parents.
So
you
what
know,
did-
I'm like, oh, come on a Saturday. Can't we? Why does he have to watch cartoons this early? I would wake
What
up
about
before
your
the cartoons would
college
come on.
buddies?
Oh, they I was quiet. That was the thing. I was quiet, but I was always up early in the morning. The funny part was that one of my roommates for a while, I would be getting up and I would go early in the morning to the college radio station. And myself and the person that is my wonderful bride right now, she and I would cut news and sportscasts for the college radio station. And then go back home, get ready for class, then go to class, and then go back to the station midday and recut stuff for the afternoon, in addition to doing other stuff. So we were up early. I had a roommate that routinely I would be leaving to go do stuff early in the morning at the college radio station, and he would be sitting on the couch. Did he have classes during the day? Yes. Why is he on the couch? He's watching reruns of Fame. I don't know why. And what are the number of times that because he was so tired, he then ended up sleeping through class?
Yeah.
At least 3 days a week. He barely graduated. Barely. But I'm sitting here and I'm looking at him and asking Steve, I'm like, you can go to bed. You don't have to watch Fame. I'm like, this is like reruns. You can read about it. But I don't know. He was up early in the morning. He did it all the time. So,
Bill,
yeah.
I'm not sure I saw the sunrise in college. So
No way.
you
Seriously?
and I had different experiences,
Jeez,
man.
Yeah.
I'd gone
totally.
to bed just before the sun came up.
Oh God, no. And also though, I was working, this is how crazy it was. I was also working food service at the time, working at either restaurants or a country club. And that's lunch dinner. So there are times I didn't get home until 11:30 or so at night. Yeah, that was not unusual. And then turn around and get up and be back at the radio station by about 5. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing this stupid thing for a long time. Yeah, a long time. I've been this stupid.
Well, it is Friday, and I love you, Billy. And we are going to have an absolutely fantastic show. I mean, big news with Evan Gershkovich coming home. We're going to talk with John Decker, White House correspondent, about this trade that took place. The Wall Street Journal with what, Billy, I can only describe as a spy novel.
Yeah.
When you
I
dive
saw a little bit of that. I didn't read
into
the whole thing. Yeah.
it's big. It takes an hour to read it. It is a deep
Wow.
dive into what happened. And Billy, I got to tell you,
Yeah.
it came down to the mom.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
She would not give up. She was a
Good.
pain in the rear of the German chancellor,
Oh,
of the
nice.
president of the United States. She fought and fought and fought
Good.
for her son. And last night got to embrace him as Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, came home. Very powerful story.
Oh, that's nice. I saw a sadder story yesterday related to it, and it's the spouse of one of the prisoners that was still there. And she broke down into tears, saying, I don't understand why my husband is left behind. Why isn't he worthy? Why isn't he someone we can get out? And she said she's very happy for those American prisoners and their families. She said, but on today, it's especially painful, she says, because it's a reminder that the mechanism can be in place, but for whatever reason, her husband hasn't been deemed worthy, or they don't have enough assets to get him, or whatever it is. And that was a tough conversation, because there isn't a right decision other than go get them all, but what you'd have to give Putin in exchange is absolutely ridiculous. You have to give him our nuclear code to just say give all of our people. And he's been collecting assets
He
recently.
has learned, to collect assets.
Yep.
He has learned to do this. And I mean, the United States has got to get way more serious about making sure this doesn't happen, or this is just going to explode all over the world.
Oh, yeah. The idea that you can do this.
I mean, they just basically pick up Americans now.
Yeah.
I would not recommend traveling to Russia.
Oh, no.
At all.
No.
And Billy, I went
Gosh,
in
no.
college.
Yeah, you did. And you even had the experience of the security state. And it still exists. It's not as overt, but it still exists.
I had to deal with the just corrupt, hungry cops around lunchtime.
Yeah, that's funny.
It was like every single day we were there around lunch, I got arrested. And it was
every day.
Every day. It's like you could set your watch for it. And it was like, oh, Mr. Hunt, I don't even know how to do a Russian accent. But we need to look at your passport.
Yeah.
Problem with the passport. Problem. And then I'd be like, can $20 make this problem go away?
Exactly.
And they're like, well, yes, it can.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you for the McDonald's.
You know, how many of them were actually hungry? They were like,
that's all they were.
It's like,
that's all they were.
I'm hungry. There's an American. Let me get some money. Yeah,
that's all. It's
ridiculous.
Yeah, and that was, 2001.
Wow.
2002. And now I want to go back because basically Putin has learned he can. And what they traded Gershkovich for, was Putin's top hitman.
Yeah, and it's not like he's been killing his enemies recently or anything.
Jeez,
he hasn't done that in like last 2 years. That hasn't been a priority.
This guy, I tell you.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. And they have the other one that I saw, 6 months ago. He grabbed that dancer that has shared citizenship. So he's grabbing up a whole bunch of people. It's a female dancer, and she has shared, I think it's Russian dual American citizenship. And she was there visiting her family in Russia, and she got arrested for just bogus charges. So yeah, he had been collecting assets last couple of months. So I'm not surprised that he gave some of the other assets back because he had been picking up extra chips in the game.
He's just reloading his debt. Criminal, man.
Oh, he's awful.
And Gershkovich traded for Putin's top hitman, but again, the mom, she was just relentless. And you got to put pressure because look, if you're a government leader, this is just a job, right? It's okay, we'll get around to negotiating with them. Oh, by the way, I gotta get home for dinner, that type of thing.
Exactly.
But when it's your kid,
it's totally different.
It's totally different. And you got to be the top advocate. And so she actually was from the former Soviet Union.
I didn't know that one. Wow.
And so she knew what that security state was like and the corruption and stuff. And she was just a vicious bulldog.
Oh, that's fantastic.
To get her son back, which is just very, very cool.
That is wonderful.
I'm watching video of them embrace on the tarmac there. That is just so cool.
Incredible. That was amazing to see because it's just that overwhelming joy, and it's a day you never thought would come.
Yeah.
And the other part is just not being able to understand and imagine what they've been through. I saw earlier the people on the comfy couch on the Fox Newses were having a conversation with one of Gershkovich's coworkers and talking about getting him out. And the coworker had a really interesting insight, something I hadn't considered. And he talked about who Evan Gershkovich was.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but he's not that guy anymore, kind of a thing. He said he's changed. He goes, there are going to be things that are going to be different about him. And he said, I'm kind of like, and the premise, almost the tail end of the interview is, I'm excited to see my friend, but I'm also excited to meet him again, kind of a thing.
Wow.
And you're like, wow, that's
that
deep
does
to think about it
take you
way.
through.
Yeah.
We hosted that pastor that was put in was it the Turkish prison, I believe?
Yeah.
And that experience, brutal on him as well. Yeah. So, I mean, jail, especially being a political prisoner, is
in countries in which jail is there to prove a point to you.
Right.
Yeah. Which just
and to send a message to everybody else.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So we're going to talk with John Decker, White House correspondent, in the 7:00 hour about the Evan Gershkovich change. I mean, big news. And is it good news? Did we make the right trade? Putin's got his top hitman back. We'll get into that. And then the Red Balloon CEO, this is a conservative jobs site, is going to join us to give us an update on the monthly jobs report coming out in just a matter of about an hour or so. So we'll get how are jobs looking in America? A headline out of Drudge yesterday that we may be slipping into a recession. Dow dropped in a big way. We'll be tracking the financial numbers today in the 8:00 hour. And then George Brockler can give us an update on the Tina Peters case in the 9:00 hour. Opening arguments took place yesterday. That was fascinating. So a lot of news to cover. Of course, phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. I'm just scorned because Billy's roommate watched replays of Fame.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. At like 4 a.m.
Oh
That was
my
the part.
God.
And I was
Fame?
like, yeah, Fame. Yeah, and I'm like, Fame.
I've never even heard of Fame.
Oh,
Jeff, you
Jeff.
don't want to. You don't want to know,
You sweet, sweet summer child.
Bro,
You're so young.
You do
It
not want to
ended
know.
Yeah.
when I was 6. So
You
okay.
could go all your life without watching.
Yeah,
one of
you
those.
could. Here's the deal. Mid 80s, there is this movie that becomes super, super popular about this woman dancing on stage and she gets splashed with water and makes leg warmers a trend.
yeah,
A thing called Flashdance.
yeah.
Fame is a spinoff of kids going through the Flashdance experience in college. It's kind of like going to Juilliard. It's kind of the thing that's what they're doing. So they're the struggling young peppy guys and girls that like once a show get together and jazz hands, and we do a sequential dance. That's the story. Yeah, that's the plot.
Oh man, Jeff, don't ever look at it.
Yes.
Please.
So your roommate found.
I have and again, it was a very strange individual, and for whatever reason, he was
attractive dancers.
but he was sucked into this. I'm going, dude, seriously, yeah. Like, there's so many other things that you could. I mean, you get sucked into we can go. Oh, we're Blake and I are in old school. You get sucked into like episodes of soap, early sitcoms like that. That's okay. That's okay. That's acceptable. Yes. Oh, soap was good.
No, it was good.
You go back and you could even get into like In the Heat of the Night. Come on, those are good. Those are really good shows. But Fame?
All right, Grandpa. I don't know any idea what you guys are talking about.
It's like someone waking up early. It's okay. It's like a kid today at CU waking up, and for whatever reason, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're streaming the original Saved by the Bell series. So basically, what it is.
I would join them. That was great. Remember when Jesse had too many caffeine pills?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yes. The crisis of conscience of Slater and why does Zach always have to be? I mean, he's the protagonist, but he's still an a-hole. That's great. Yeah, it's great.
I'll play a little excerpt later, Jeff.
Oh, you're the best.
66 and clear with some smoke in the air as the sun rises, expecting a high of 97 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Larimer County officials say at least 24 structures have burned in the ongoing Alexander Mountain fire west of Loveland and has burned more than 8,000 acres of land since Monday. The fire is 5% contained, and road closures and evacuation orders remain in effect. The quarry fire in Jefferson County came within a quarter mile of structures on Thursday. The fire near Deer Creek Canyon Road has burned at least 450 acres, and it's 0% contained. There's some progress in the Stone Canyon fire near Lyons. It's now at 30% containment, but has burned more than 1,500 acres.
Hey, Blake.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about this a little bit later, but I'm going to talk about it now. I've been watching these Colorado Park and Wildlife posts on X from Chatfield Reservoir.
Isn't that amazing?
Watching, you got to go see these if you haven't seen them. To the listeners, they're these huge planes coming down and pulling up water from Chatfield Reservoir. It is so cool, man. I just love American might, and when you can drop big, huge planes into a reservoir like that and pull up the water, and you're just and the guy's off to fight the fire. Dude, we just have some cool firefighters.
We do. Just so many heroes. And you're right. When you see those planes, just incredible. People, you go about your business every day and you just don't realize the might and strength and everything that we have in this country to try to fight that. I see crop dusters all the time up here, of course, and I'm amazed at those guys, just with crop dusting, but man, with the water. No, that video is incredible.
And they're off to go save lives and protect property and end this fire. Dude, we just
risking their lives every minute.
Exactly. These are just really cool people and the power there. So go to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife X account. You can watch all these.
Yeah, it's just amazing. We can see all that stuff now on X and on the internet. One person is dead and 3 others wounded following a Thursday afternoon shooting in Aurora. It happened shortly after 3 along Ironton Street, where Responding officers found 4 people suffering from gunshot wounds in a parking lot. A man was pronounced dead at the scene, while the other victims had non-life-threatening injuries. Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan arrived at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland late last night. They're among 16 people released from Russian detention after a negotiated prisoner swap. President Biden and VP Harris greeted them as they got off the plane. And that's when we heard from Harris, a little word salad near the end.
This is an extraordinary day, and I'm very thankful for our president and what he has done over his entire career, but in particular as it relates to these families and these individuals, what he has been able to do to bring the allies together on many issues, but in particular this one. This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. It's an incredible day.
Now, Harris hasn't faced the media in a real press conference in a month. I didn't even realize this. 99% of them love her, but they're playing cover for her, obviously. But that was really her first little interaction. But it's just a little group. She just made a little statement there.
Yeah, and she's not going to have to debate.
No.
She could do what Joe Biden did in 2020.
Yes.
Hide everything. The media will do all the bidding for her. It's a machine.
Yes.
So the machine will kick in, and she can just show up in January and be sworn in.
Right. Exactly. And that looks like that's the playbook right now. Former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien on the prisoner swap.
But the big winner today, there's no question about it, is Vladimir Putin. Internally, he showed his security services, the FSB and the SVR, that he can send assassins out to the West. He can murder people in broad daylight. And if they're captured, if his operatives are captured, he'll take an innocent American hostage, someone high profile like Brittany Griner for Victor Bout, or Evan for this guy Krasikov, and he'll bring him home. And so he's bolstered his position with the security services that are key to his survival as the leader of Russia.
Biden is considering U.S. defenses for Israel in case of an attack by Iran. So Harris, she's standing to the right of Biden last night. He kind of forgets who he talked to on Thursday, and Harris says, Netanyahu, under her breath. Playing Jill now, I guess. She's like Jill Biden. I didn't see Jill. Jill's out of the picture. So trying to show she's in control, maybe. You can see it on video, but you can barely hear it here.
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with Prime Minister. I heard her right there. Very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. We should move on it, and they should move on it now. Thank you.
All right, the U.S. is recognizing Nicolas Maduro's opponent as the winner of the Venezuela's presidential election, despite Maduro's claim of victory. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that there was overwhelming evidence that Edmundo Gonzalez had won the election. No way. Election fraud? What? Intel is preparing to cut 15% of its workforce. In this year's second quarter, Intel reported a revenue of $12.8 billion, down 1% from 2023. Simone Biles wins her second gold medal in the gymnastics all-around.
It's just insane. It's crazy. It all paid off, and I couldn't be more excited for how the night played out.
U.S. women's basketball is now 2-0 at the Paris Olympics. They defeated Belgium 87-74. The U.S. rowing team shocked the world. The men's 4 team of Nick Mead, Justin Best, Michael Grady, and Liam Corrigan earned the first gold medal in men's 4 rowing since 1960.
It literally felt like a dream. Like I literally didn't quite believe that was happening. Once you get to that sort of 600 or 700 meter mark, you're in the meat of the race, and okay, it's a race.
News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 62 in Superior, 64 in Englewood, 66 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF, Blake Olson News Talk 710, KNUS.
Partly cloudy skies, continued very warm and hazy. There will be a handful of thunderstorms this afternoon and evening, mid to upper 90s today, lows tonight, mid 60s with storms ending. Sunny Saturday, hot, mid 90s, maybe an isolated thunderstorm, 60 Saturday night. Hot, upper 90s Sunday, late day thunderstorms, better thunderstorm chances Monday through Wednesday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
So yesterday was a big day at the Olympics. Female boxer yells, "This is unjust," and falls to her knees in tears as she quits fighting against a, quote, biologically male, unquote, Olympic opponent, Amin Khalif.
Yeah, isn't it? It's
after just 46 seconds following two powerful punches. This is from the Daily Mail. A boxer deemed a, quote, biological male, unquote, and I put that in quotes because it's confusing here.
Yeah, and we should talk about that in a sec as far as why it's confusing. And there's another one that is under the same controversy for the exact same reason at the Olympics. We've got two.
Intersex.
Yeah, we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Intersex.
And we'll talk about how and what that issue is. Yeah, but continue.
One against an Italian woman in one of the most controversial Olympic bouts ever. The fight between Italy's Angela Carini and her Algerian opponent, Amin Khalif, took just 46 seconds, with the Italian throwing her helmet onto the floor as the clash was abandoned, yelling, "This is unjust." The 25-year-old refused the handshake and fell to the canvas sobbing, having received just two punches from the Algerian opponent who had been banned from a major boxing contest before the Olympics. The Algerian was thrown out of last year's World Championship after failing testosterone tests carried out to establish gender qualifications. After the match was stopped, the referee raised the Algerian's hand into the air, but a visibly furious Carini, which is the Italian, yanked her own hand away from the fight official and walked off. Ignoring the Algerian, the Italian fighter then plunged to her knees and burst into tears as she said she has never felt such strong blows in a contest before. Speaking after the match, the heartbroken Italian said, "I'm used to suffering. I've never taken a punch like that. It's impossible to continue. I'm nobody to say it's illegal. I got in this ring to fight, but I didn't feel it anymore after the first minute. I just started to feel a strong pain in my nose. I didn't give up, but the punch hurt too much. And so I said, enough. I'm leaving with my head held high." So part of the confusion here has to do with the issue of intersex. Billy.
Yeah, that a couple of years ago, this particular boxer, another one that is there, they do a sort of a DNA-ish test, not really DNA per se. They don't look at the actual strands, but they're looking at hormones in the body. And this boxer tested too high for the concentration of testosterone that is allowed in the female competition. And I guess my understanding is the boxer cleared the more recent test, as did the other test, but there are questions about it as far as why they tested high originally. Was this something that is genetic? Were they actually on some enhancers to increase testosterone inside the body in order for them to take on larger muscular strength and things like that? Was this, like the idea of a low-key steroid for a woman? There are a lot of questions surrounding it. And there should be, and I think the testing is probably a little bit too lax. We know inside the Olympics, while they talk about wanting to do it, anyone that's a child of the 80s, I understand the tests have gotten better, but anyone that's a child of the 80s understands when you used to see the Russian weightlifting women and the East German shot put women have to shave in between rounds. So we got it. So yeah. And it was obvious at that time that they were doing some performance enhancing and boosting testosterone, but the tests weren't really that good. Now we can find it, but this is a huge question. And I think I have a solution for this, and it would change immediately by the next Olympics. The problem is, in order to execute it, it's nearly impossible. It would be like herding cats. You would have to have so much cooperation to make it untenable. But I don't think it could ever work. This is what you do. In this Olympics, every subsequent boxer that faces either one of these boxers defaults, says, I'm not fighting, and doesn't show up. Because this is the reason. As soon as the Olympic Committee has to deal with a boxer who makes it into a medal round without having a fight, now you got an issue. And you have to address it. That's the only way. Not the only. It's the most immediate way to address it. The problem is you've got to coordinate with every subsequent boxer. And these boxers have trained for years. And this may be the one time they get to step inside an Olympic ring. And even in the first rounds, you may get 3 rounds, or you may get 3 different fights to try to break through, depending on how the brackets are set up. Or it could be just your only fight. And so how do you say that I'm not going to step into that Olympic ring the 1, 2, or 3 times in my life I have a chance? So that's a hard thing personally for any individual to say they need to do. But that would change it immediately. If one of the boxers gets in the medal round and they haven't taken a fight, you have to change the rules. You have to.
There's been some girls in particular sports here in America that have started to do those boycotts. And it's caught on. Some have faced retribution even from their athletic conferences for doing that. Here's what the article says. The IOC's own testosterone monitoring policies were halted 3 years ago and replaced with a policy of, quote, fairness, inclusion, and non-discrimination on the basis of gender identify and sex variation, unquote. The IOC now provides individual sporting bodies in every country with, quote, 10 guiding principles, unquote, they can use to make their own policies. Part of the problem here was that a year ago, the International Boxing Association, the IAB, did require athletes to undergo gender assessments. At the time, the IAB president claimed the tests had proven that both of these 2 boxers that are in contention here had XY chromosomes. He added that they uncovered athletes who were trying to fool their colleagues and pretend to be women. Under these same rules and test results, those 2 boxers wouldn't be able to compete in this Olympics. But the IAB was stripped of its role in governing the sport for the Paris Games by the IOC due to problems with the latter's governance. The IOC created a new body called the Paris Boxing Unit, PBU, to determine eligibility for competitors. Documents from the PBU make no mention of gender or sex testing for male or female events, though they did set limits for the age of the competitors, a passport being an acceptable ID for athletes, and requiring boxers in the women's category to declare if they are pregnant. Defending its decision to approve these 2 kind of male boxers as women, the IOC's Mr. Adams added, these athletes have competed many times before for many years and they haven't just suddenly arrived. But the sports scientists are saying that the absence of a clear policy by the IOC in this area has allowed this situation to occur. Last year, both of these two male competitors did not meet eligibility requirements, and the only reason they do now is that the body did rule them ineligible has been moved aside. Basically, it's a vacuum of policy, and there is no policy now. That is how this happened.
I have a solution. It's odd that the Paris Boxing Council said, you do you.
Right.
Basically what they did. No rules. And so the idea is, we're unhappy with this group's governance, so we're going to replace it with a group that's going to do nothing. Again, very French, super French, very, very French. This is how we solve this, okay? In the next U.S. Olympic boxing team,
which will be in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, it's we send Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather in wigs. That's it, and don't even really try to hide it. Don't make them shave nothing. Just put a wig on them and have them show up. Because if the rule is that you get to make your own rules, all right, then we're cool with dudes.
And for as funny as this can be, that woman took 2 punches to the face, may have broken her nose yesterday.
Yeah.
That is unfair to these women.
It's ridiculous.
And this controversy is right. It's right to push back on what the Olympics have done here. And it's not fair to the women.
Yeah. Now, I'm being ridiculous and silly to make a point because this is absolutely abhorrent. This is absolutely ridiculous that you would think that in this type of a physical contest that it would be fair to have someone that has an elevated level of testosterone for whatever reason. I'm not going to assume the person has XY chromosomes. I don't know, but that's the reporting, so we can go with that. So we are going to assume they're transgender. This is silly. When it is a physical contest, there are physical differences. Just like Jeff and I in the 500-meter pregnancy dash would do very bad because we can't get pregnant. So there are certain things that each body does biologically different. One of the things Jeff talks about being a runner is how when girls hit puberty, there are some biological changes physically. This isn't just about muscle and things. These are skeletal structure changes that happen because you're going to give birth to the bebes. And so it changes the mechanics of when and how you run. And you can't get to the same speed because your hips are now different than the guy's hips. So it is not a fair contest. It's ridiculous. I don't know why we're having.
I think they're going to end up. I think the Olympics are going to end up having to disqualify these two, and then the medals. That happens sometimes later after the Olympic Games. They go back and they look at what happened, and they'll end up giving medals. But it's unfair. Those punches that Italian woman boxer had to take, horrible. May have broken her nose as a result of this. So this transgender nonsense. Men competing in women's sports, it's got to end. Hey, I want to tell you about my friend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. If you're considering selling your home, go with the team that is going to not only give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble has proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you the list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you're going to put in your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it. Guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. I want you, look, we're about to hear whether or not interest rates are going to go down here. So things are going to get better for selling a home, getting into a new home, getting better interest rates. So put down this phone number, 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll get to the calls next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking this boxing match that took place yesterday where the Italian boxer yells, "This is unjust," falls to her knees in tears as she quits, as she had to fight a biological male Olympic opponent from Algeria. And the Algerian government is basically taking the Borat approach, which is, we beat you. Ha, ha, ha. Silly woman.
Yeah. Oh, we make rules.
Gosh. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Dwayne, Divide, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
A couple things on the trade. They're very disappointed the Rockies didn't get 11.
Oh, Dwayne, call us back. Your phone's breaking up on us.
Yeah, we're getting every other word. Let's go to Jay Sterling, Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. Appreciate everything. Anyways, here's a psychological thing I got a question for. The women, if they're going to enter the ring, they ought to ask if the male or if their component has been castrated, like we do to calves out on the farm. And now if these guys are willing to do that, then it's unjust what's going on. And they ought to just bow out right before they get the facts and say, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. What they have found is that even if later in life you transition, let's say you go through bottom surgery, all that stuff, you still went through puberty. And when you did that, you ended up with stronger bones, bigger muscle mass, all that stuff that a guy goes through. And so even later in life, if you have everything chopped off, you still can pound these girls into the floor like that guy did yesterday.
I didn't think about that, but I would, there's a lot of money at stake here with a lot of these games.
Yeah.
As far as however those people set those things up, as far as boxing or whatever have you, fights, whatever. But they ought to just bow out and say, no, I want this amount of proof before I even jump in the ring. Other than that, they just need to just say, no, ain't doing it.
The other one
that would cut out, you follow the money, you'll solve the problem. And now those people ain't going to make no money, because if that person, the actual individual says, unless I know this, this, and this, I am not going to take on that challenge with that person.
Yeah, I also would like to see them push, and thanks for the call, Jim. I appreciate it. I would like to see them create their separate division. If we're going to do it in the Olympics and we're going to allow them to compete, I think if they want to compete, we should try to figure out a mechanism as far as how that can happen. But placing them in the ring with biological females is not the right choice. And I think if you begin to open up avenues for transgender athletes to compete in their own divisions, I think you may have something there. I mean, hell, we have breakdancing as an Olympic sport. If breakdancing can be an Olympic sport, we can find a way to have transgender boxing and have them in their own category so they can compete. Again, breakdancing.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Jay, for the call. Let's go to Dwayne Divide. Good morning, Dwayne. Do we get a better connection?
I hope so. I got the aluminum foil on the arm, and I'm pointing towards the east.
Hey, sounds much better.
Good directions.
Yes. Well, you do what you can. Again, about the trade there with everybody, with the Russians, we still didn't get any pitching for the Rockies, which I'm very disappointed in.
That is awful.
I would take a Russian. I would take anybody that could pitch.
Yeah, I would too.
And give me a left-hander that can throw 98 miles an hour. I'm good for a closer, but enough of this. This whole situation with the Olympics has become kind of a farce from its original ideal. I mean, badminton and breakdancing, and now ladies boxing. I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
And nobody's naked. I mean, I heard about the original games. They were supposed to be naked. I mean, that was a very big disappointment.
Well, yeah, Bill, I understand, but you used to watch all those old movies,
That's
Gladiators.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Men with spears.
I saw
like
a video.
That,
NBC Olympics did a really cool video of men's swimming 200 meters in 1936 and then men's swimming 200 meters freestyle yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And the guys yesterday finished 10 seconds ahead of the winners in 1936.
Jeez.
It's
crazy.
Amazing how much these games have developed.
Well, look at baseball. I mean, guys played baseball, and then they had a game or a job after the season,
Right.
and now they're 24-hour day, 7-day week, nutrition, workouts, everything else, traveling elsewhere to keep playing. It's just not the same anymore. And we need to sit there and go back, and just because a young lady can put on a pair of 16-ounce gloves and get in there and everything else, it's not fun unless you're in a bar and sitting there betting on them. So I don't think we should have any boxing.
Well,
just as a man, I'm sitting there saying, we don't really need to have that in the Olympics.
I mean, Dwayne, I disagree. I think if the ladies are, and you see this Italian lady, she's a police officer. She's intense. She's driven. If there wants to be women's boxing, I don't have a problem with it. But the fact that these dudes want to jump in there and pound on these girls, and like she mentioned yesterday, she has never in her life had to take a punch like she did from that guy. That's just not fair. Dwayne, I appreciate the call. We're just out of time. When we come up next, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Billy, let's do it. You choose the news.
Yes, we are going to bring you a brand new set of stories on You Choose the News. It is not the loser edition because we made some executive decisions earlier in the week, and we still have some brand new stories you haven't heard. Yes, it is time for You Choose the News, everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments, well, yesterday, actually, and given these dumb stories even worse headlines to play this fake radio news game show with you. Why? Because those in charge have no idea this actually goes on. So we'd appreciate it if you don't tell them. I had a question last week. One of you is beginning to leak the story. Alrighty, now, also, Roll 'em Out Shelves. Go check them out. They are proud to come to your home and fix all of your clutter needs. We're talking about bathroom, kitchen, garage, basement, wherever. They will solve that clutter needs just like they did in Jeff's house and in my mom's house. But the one thing they will not do is be associated with anything as stupid as You Choose the News. No, they are a reputable company. Check them out. RollTheMoutShelves.com. Schedule your free in-home estimate today. RollTheMoutShelves.com. And again, shh. Don't tell them about You Choose the News. They're going to charge you more. Alrighty, gentlemen, here we go. Brand new stories for today. Headline number 1, Merry Christmas and Happy Felony. Headline number 2, Turbocharged Tattletale. Headline number 3, Stabbing for Science. And headline number 4, Army Mad at Big Jabroni. Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
Merry Christmas, Happy Felony.
Yes, Merry Christmas and Happy Felony. An Arizona man received a wonderful Christmas gift from his mother just a couple of years ago. Jason Tasker, 43, got a trip to Washington, D.C. from his mother. And he did. He took the trip of a lifetime. He was there in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Where he allegedly assaulted a couple of officers and wandered around the Capitol building, causing some problems and impeding police. He is now charged with 2 felonies and a bunch of other little tiny misdemeanors.
Yes. You did that?
Congratulations. Yes, I send you on your Christmas trip. Good luck. And, felonies. Probably not what Mom was thinking of. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't think that's what Mom was imagining. But, it's just like the time in which my parents...
Christmas in prison's nice.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's just like the time in which my parents gave me a wood burning kit and immediately regretted it. It's not a good thing. I might have lit some stuff on fire. Okay, now, on purpose. Alrighty, now, Blake, your choice, sir. Turbocharged Tattletale, Stabbing for Science, or Army Mad at Big Jabroni?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. Let's go with the Big Jabroni.
Yeah, Army, big mad at Big Jabroni. The United States Army is reportedly wanting to lay the smack down. They are upset because they can't smell what the Rock's cooking. Recently, the United States Army signed a huge contract with Dwayne Johnson's UFL, and it really didn't work out for the military at all. In fact, it went so bad, they want some of their money back. Now, it was supposed to be a recruitment effort that is going to help the Army get more butts in the seats and into basic training. In fact, the high dollar profile deal that was multiple millions of dollars, an $11 million payment, actually ended up losing recruits. A study thinks that they lost around 40 recruits. So it was a net negative. People didn't sign up because of the bad advertising campaign. And so the Army wants some of their money back, in part because they say that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was supposed to produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good tweets about the Army, and he only managed to post 2. So
Really?
they want the money back, and what they're doing is they're valuing the tweets at $1 million per tweet. And so they're asking for the money back.
You can pay me $1 million a tweet.
Exactly. They can pay.
And people won't run away from the Army. So
yes, exactly.
Probably a better investment.
I just look at that, and they said that he was supposed to be their brand ambassador, and he didn't produce. Yeah. So, all righty. Final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt. Turbocharged Tattletale or Stabbing for Science?
Stabbing for Science.
Stabbing for Science, not always a good idea. A man fatally stabbed another person at a bar over a heated debate recently in Indonesia over what came first, the chicken or the egg? The 2 men were not acquainted. They were drinking. Obviously, after they had pushed back a few too many, they started having a discussion about the chicken and the egg, which one came first. And the argument got so heated, one gentleman left the bar, went home to get a sharp implement, came back and stabbed the other person in the jail. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I disagree with you. Stab, 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 stab. It still doesn't make you right. Doesn't make you right.
Billy, you and I get into it sometimes, and I don't ever want to encourage stabbing, but I can understand the emotions get there.
Next time Jeff leaves the studio, I'm locking the door here. Just for personal safety.
It's always the guys who own chickens.
It always is. You are the best, Blake. That's perfect. That's the end of You Choose the News.
Was great. Billy, I love you. I'd never stab you. But the emotions are there.
Not in public.
All right.
We'll be right back.
It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, August 2nd. $7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, August 2nd, where Billy and I have perfected the art of disagreeing without stabbing, which has happened apparently, and you choose the news. A bar fight over chicken or the egg. If you missed the last hour, you can go back to that conversation. But you have tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole another hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after the news, John Decker, White House correspondent, is going to give us some insight on what happened with the Evan Gershkovich Wall Street Journal prisoner exchange for President Putin's top assassin. Oh, my goodness. We're going to get some details on this. So much drama. Biden, Harris meeting Evan Gershkovich on the tarmac yesterday. Blake's going to provide some audio on that, but this is just amazing. Glad to have him back. So you're not going to miss that conversation with John Decker. Speaking of the news, let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. Man, there is a lot going on. You are correct. 68 and sunny with smoke in the air, expecting a high of 97 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, there's some progress in the Stone Canyon fire near Lyons. It's now at 30% containment, but has burned more than 1,500 acres. At least 5 homes have burned, and a person's body was found inside one of them. 4 firefighters have been injured. Larimer County officials say that at least 24 structures have burned in the ongoing Alexander Mountain Fire west of Loveland, and has burned more than 8,000 acres of land since Monday. The Quarry Fire in Jefferson County came within a quarter mile of structures on Thursday. The fire near Deer Creek Canyon Road has burned at least 450 acres, and it's 0% contained. President Biden considering U.S. defenses for Israel in the event of an attack by Iran.
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with Prime Minister today. And, very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. He should move on it, and they should move on it now.
You heard VP Harris in the background possibly saying Netanyahu. She was playing Jill Biden there. Iran has vowed to attack Israel in response to the recent assassination of a Hamas leader in Tehran. Kamala Harris's campaign has raised $310 million, making it the biggest, air quotes, grassroots fundraising effort in presidential campaign history. The money doesn't include what Harris took over from the Biden campaign, but she still hasn't faced the press in a month. The press that'll tell you today how amazing she and the campaign is. So get ready for that this weekend. So she was with Biden last night to welcome Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan and others released from Russia in a negotiated prisoner swap. Here's Harris.
This is an extraordinary day, and I'm very thankful for our president and what he has done over his entire career, but in particular as it relates to these families and these individuals.
Now, here comes the word salad right here. Just a second.
This one. This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
Whoa, it was a little late last night. Former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien on the prisoner swap.
But the big winner today, there's no question about it, is Vladimir Putin. Internally, he showed his security services at the FSB and the SVR that he can send assassins out to the West. He can murder people in broad daylight. And if they're captured, if his operatives are captured, he'll take an innocent American hostage, someone high profile like Brittany Griner for Victor Bout or Evan for this guy Krasikov, and he'll bring him home. And so he's bolstered his position with the security services that are key to his survival as the leader of Russia.
Former President Trump says men shouldn't be able to compete against women and hates seeing it in Olympic boxing, on with Buck and Clay, and says that garbage won't happen here if he's elected.
From day one, it'll be ended. I can tell you one thing. Men will not be playing in women's sports. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. The whole country is a laughing stock. Our country has become a laughing stock all over the world, and we're going to change it.
And my thing just froze, and I was all excited. TGIF as we continue here. It's 66 in North Glen, 64 in Castle Rock, 68 in Denver. Simone Biles wins her second gold in the gymnastics all around.
It's just insane. It's crazy. It all paid off, and I couldn't be more excited for how the night played out.
U.S. women's basketball is now 2-0 at the Olympics. They defeated Belgium 87-74. The U.S. rowing team shocked the world. The men's team of Nick Mead, Justin Best, Michael Grady, and Liam Corrigan earned the first gold medal in men's four rowing since 1960.
It literally felt like a dream. Like I literally didn't quite believe that was happening. Once you get to that sort of 600 or 700 meter mark, you're in the meat of the race and okay, it's a race.
All right. It is Friday, TGIF. So come
47 and 50. You can't be too surprised. I'm going back to DC. We're back on the ride.
Hey, little love it, the underdogs on top. And I'm going to shine, homie, until my heart stops.
But head hate on me. Can't stop DJ T, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me.
Get ready for the weekend. It's much better than this.
Oh, you had to do that to me.
I had to do it again. So Jeff, here, Jeff. Here's fame.
Yeah,
man, I know what I'm doing tonight. Check it in.
You know what's going to happen? He's going to come in Monday in leg warmers and spandex, and that's going to be super awkward. Super awkward. Yeah, if he starts adding scrunchies to his hair, he has no hair.
Baby. Scrunchies, that's what it is. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, Fame was a spinoff of Flashdance.
Well,
right?
it was just inspired by. It was like the idea that, hey, a lot of people went to see this movie where people danced. How about we do a TV show where people dance?
And Jeff had never seen it.
No.
God bless him, and good for you.
Old dudes.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
it's old. It's
absolutely.
ridiculous. Yeah. He didn't even know what electric boogaloo was. It was really ridiculous. And sometimes I wonder about him.
Exactly. All right, Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Partly cloudy skies, continued very warm and hazy. There will be a handful of thunderstorms this afternoon and evening. Mid to upper 90s today. Lows tonight, mid 60s with storms ending. Sunny Saturday, hot, mid 90s. Maybe an isolated thunderstorm, 60 Saturday night. Hot, upper 90s Sunday. Late day thunderstorms, better thunderstorm chances Monday through Wednesday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Yeah, Jeff, this is just the story of a couple of plucky teenagers doing a weird new dance style, and we come together to save the community center. Yes, Jeff and Bill, 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's basically the theme for Breaking 2. So, yeah, reference to previous hour.
Man, there's a lot of good dance happening.
I don't know about
that
good.
Apparently missed during the 80s.
There was a lot of stuff happening. I'm not saying it's going to be good. Yeah, I'm not saying that was all the best things.
Well, big news last night as Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, along with others, was swapped out with Russia in a prisoner exchange. And John Decker will hopefully be joining us back here in a second. He's a White House correspondent. Give us some update on what happened. But Wall Street Journal's got a fantastic piece. If you want to get into the deep details on this, it's about an hour-long read. It reads like a spy novel inside the secret negotiations to free Evan Gershkovich. The effort to bring home the Wall Street Journal reporter and others unfolded on 3 continents, involving spy agencies, billionaires, political power players, and his fiercest advocate, his mother. When you get into the details on this, it's pretty clear that it was her. She was the advocate. She would not give up. She kept pressing. She would go to like cocktail receptions with the German chancellor, cornered him. And it just, honestly, it kind of struck me and reminded me of when our daughter was in the hospital. And somebody once said, so we spent 94 days in the hospital with our daughter when she was first born. She weighed 1 pound, 9 ounces. And then I carried her through. So she was born in the second trimester of development and carried her all the way through. And today she's perfectly fine. But someone said to us that no one's going to care for your daughter as much as you do. For everybody else involved in the situation, it's a job. For you, it's your child. And so you need to be the best advocate. If something's wrong, you need to point it out. If there's things that aren't being done right, you need to point it out. So it was, and we did that, and we got her through, and we had to sometimes have hard conversations with doctors. But in this case, it was Evan Gershkovich's mom, Ella, who just was relentless in going after and making sure that the White House was negotiating, that Germany was negotiating. And the reason it involved Germany is because Germany was the one that caught the hitman that was working for Vladimir Putin. And that's basically what the exchange was. So Russia got Vladimir Putin's top hitman back, who was arrested in Germany. And then America got Evan Gershkovich and some others back, including a former Marine. So
I have no idea what happened to our guest.
Yeah,
no clue. It just disappeared, and I don't have a contact number for him. I'm calling the booker, but Booker's not answering.
Okay,
I have no clue. Well, live radio. What do you do?
We'll continue with that.
What do we do?
Billy,
we can start breakdancing.
You think this was a fair deal?
Oh, fair is it's tough. No, I don't, because I believe we gave up too many assets to get back the prisoners. Now, is it fair to them and their families? No, because they would want us to give up whatever we have to get them back, and I respect that, and I would feel the same way. These were dangerous assets, and you're giving Putin more tools to go out and do awful, awful things. However, I would hope that while it may not be true, the conversation between us and Germany kind of are, listen, we got him once, we can get him again, based on the assassin and a couple others. Like, we already were able to arrest them. And if they are going to leave Russia, well, we're just going to do it better this time around. And it's not necessarily something that makes you feel better, but you at least are allowed to rationalize why you can make the decision. You can say, okay, I can get there because we hopefully will get another, and pun intended, shot at getting the bad guys back. But it's a hard choice. It's a really hard choice.
I think Putin won on this one. And
yeah, why?
He gets his top assassin back. He's learned right now that he can just gobble up Americans. And this administration has not been tough enough in negotiating with him. I think Trump will do a better job. When I go back to The Art of the Deal, reading that book, thinking about how Trump understands these, how Trump's going to negotiate, all that stuff. Right now, Putin's in the position of power, and he feels like he can do this, and he's going to get his thugs back. Putin is not a good guy.
No, not at all.
And I am critical of how Tucker Carlson did his interview. I don't think he was strong enough on him.
Well, the thing that got me mad, and I understand Tucker not being necessarily hard on Putin, because Tucker likes all his fingers and wants to come home. So I get that. The part that I didn't understand was the fluff pieces around Moscow and elsewhere about how wonderful Russia is. That is not true in any way, shape, or form. And the stuff that he talked about was absolutely crazy. I mean, the idea of, he's like, look at how pretty the subways are. Okay, would you be willing to give up the large amount of freedom you would have to in order to be under a system because you want the subways clean? Is that necessarily the goal? That it's like, oh, America, we're falling apart because of our dirty subways. The rest of the world is laughing at us because, the subways suck. I doubt that. I don't think that's not the aspirational goal of some of the other countries. So I really question how he presented that. And we do have to understand. I also have to question, Do I want to do this? I might as well. Okay. I do have to question sometimes the MAGA support for Putin and Orban and people like that, because there is concerted effort for those guys. I mean, CPAC's gone over and held events inside of authoritarian governments, inside of their borders. That to me, I have a bit of a question about as well. And I'm not saying that necessarily that people that are supporting Trump support dictators, etc. But I'm cautious about the appeal, about what they say about Putin. If you see some videos of Trump supporters and conversations, and again, they're not always fair because the people doing the videos are going to look for the lowest common denominator. But when individuals in America, regardless of political party, are expressing admiration for the strength of Putin, that should give all of us some concern because of how he derives that strength and what he does with it. That is a serious concern, again, regardless of party affiliation. And I sadly feel that's because of a lack of information about Putin. It's more of an impression about how he presents himself internationally, and these people are not diving into exactly how he maintains this power and what he does to people that oppose him. Because the idea would be that those people that express that admiration for his strength would not want to be on the receiving end of it. They admire.
No. And I think what it is, it's at least an admiration around this kind of like, we're not going to allow this wokeness that's taking place. So, for instance, in Turkey, the kind of promotion of strong traditional family values. In Russia, they really don't allow the LGBTQ, I would say, level of craziness that it can sometimes get to, right? Of transing kids and that type of stuff. And so there's this admiration of like, these guys kind of stepped in and said, not going to happen. But then like for instance, in Russia, there's no religious freedom.
Yeah, none at
There's
all.
no really, like the church is not great in Russia right now.
Not at all. And the church is de facto controlled by the state.
Yes.
Yeah, the church only is allowed to exist because of the state. And I understand the idea about, these strong figures are tramping down on the wokeness and they're getting control. The question that needs to be asked after that is, how?
Yeah, right.
Because what they're doing is they're arresting, beating, killing the people involved. So what I have a problem with is the admiration, the idea of look how well Putin is dealing with this crazy LGBTQ. My question then is, would you prefer we deal with it that way here? Would you like to see members of the LGBTQ community rounded up, beaten, killed, just thrown in prison for years without trials, just because you're guilty because of who you've decided you are? That's it. We don't need to have a trial.
I think you're right, Bill.
And that's a problem.
You're right. These are not necessarily places you want to admire. And Billy, they were a great question via text message here. Why were these hostages in Russia? Were they really spies? Why do people travel to Russia in the first place? So, and with the Wall Street Journal reporter, Evan Gershkovich, so he was there on assignment and he was covering a lot of the problems that were happening in Russia. And in fact, the story he was covering at the day he was arrested was not actually all that controversial. It was how Russia is retrofitting old tanks and rushing them to the border of Ukraine, which Russia was like very proud of. But he was supposed to meet a contact in a steakhouse to have a conversation. He got picked up there, but this was ordered by Vladimir Putin. And the reason it was ordered by Vladimir Putin is Putin has come to realize that he can collect Americans to negotiate to get his operatives back that have been arrested. And the one that was arrested was his hitman who killed somebody in broad daylight in a park in Germany.
Yeah.
And got arrested as he was trying to flee by taking off a wig and I think get on a scooter. So he was like, it was like Jason Bourne stuff.
And he was serving a life sentence. So he was never getting out inside of Germany. And so that's what Putin did. And my understanding with Gershkovich, in part also the story that the reason he became the target, one, he's high profile. It's Wall Street Journal. Two, he was explaining some of the PR failures of the Russian military. When Russia can't send brand new tanks to the fighting lines, when Russia's having to replace lost fighting assets and have to retrofit old equipment, that does not look good on the Russian military establishment. And so I think that's part of why Gershkovich became a target, because he wasn't, Putin likes to have very, very pro-Putin stuff. And he was doing honest reporting, not spying, but honest reporting. And the reason he's there is because we need to hopefully have a second set of eyes versus just Russian state propaganda. Have someone else in there that is doing the work. And many of those authoritarian and dictator countries, at least early on, or when they're a little more moderate, see the value in having some Western coverage of what's going on, because if the Western, freedom pig dogs get out of line, we can just throw them in prison, just like they did. So he had a solution. Yeah, Putin was using him to make sure that Russia still had a decent internationally facing, profile. But when he didn't, when he was no longer playing along, and Putin figured he could get his people back, especially after Brittany Griner, we've set the table. We've like, oh yeah, we can do this.
Some of these other Americans were just taken, like they were attending, I think, weddings on behalf of family members and stuff, and they just make up stuff.
Yeah,
and that's what happened to me when I was there. I would be just walking along, and they could hear me speaking English, and they go, "Oh, passport problem, come here,
exactly.
Passport problem," and like, "Do you need lunch?" "Yes, please."
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, same thing. Only now, Putin, instead of asking for lunch, he's asking for his assets back.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, because he knows we will trade. And he also knows, especially running into, he's very well aware of our political cycles. And running into this political cycle, and part of the reason I believe he let this loose is because he's gumming up the works. This is a way for him to, again, interfere in the elections. He can sway American opinion based on what happens here about getting the hostages back. That's one thing that Trump can't say on the stump anymore.
Right. He said he was going to do it day one.
Oh, and remember the reason. You remember the reason, and that's very important. I think in this is because I believe that Putin, his feelings were hurt, and he felt offended based on Trump's reasoning. Trump always gave the reason that Putin will release Gershkovich like day one for Trump, because he likes him and he wouldn't have to give anything up. He just made Putin look weak. He just told the world, Putin will do what I want because he's my buddy and I will get what I need, and Putin's not going to get anything. He made Putin look weak internationally, and Putin was pissed.
I do think Trump's a better negotiator than Joe Biden. And when I look at the story, the Wall Street Journal story, and how they negotiate and how it all came together with Germany, and I just think that Trump knows how to negotiate. It's like literally his gifting, his skill set, and I think he'd do a much better job. I'm not sure Russia would have gotten everything. In this case,
I agree with you that Trump individually is a better negotiator than Biden, but I'm not certain I believe that about the teams behind them. And I'm not certain about Trump's choice based on negotiating teams. I do know some of the people that are involved behind the scenes, not personally, obviously, who the people are involved in the scenes on the negotiating side for Biden. They're a little scary. I would not want to be involved in negotiations with them. And my biggest example of that would be talk to Andrew McCarthy in the budget deal. Biden's team rolled him. That wasn't Joe. That was Biden's negotiating team.
Interesting.
They took him to the cleaners on that one. So the people behind him, I think, are pretty good. Yeah. But I don't know if they'd be better than the team that Trump would have, honestly. I don't know. I am just speculating. But the people behind Biden are. The people in front of Biden himself. I mean, Putin would just say, how about a year's supply of Dairy Queen? And he'd go, woo, vanilla or chocolate?
You know who's a hell of a negotiator?
Who?
This guy delivers all the time. Dan Kaplan and Dan Kaplan's Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. Dan is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. This guy is with us on the values. That matters, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. He's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who were hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer, listen to this, in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. He is a titan in the courtroom who who is believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. He's trusted and is so professional that Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. But he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, just give him a call, 303-770-5551. Look, even if you don't need him now, just put this phone number in your phone right now, 303-770-5551. Or visit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. That would be my first call. He would be my first call if I was ever hurt.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this. I have some people that have worked with Dan in a personal level. He was representing them. He was involved in their cases and did a wonderful job. I mean, did a top notch. You couldn't write a check big enough to get the service that you get from Dan Caplis and his law team. Here was the thing that made the separation. Here was the thing that was the difference. He would call personally and check on these clients to see how they were doing.
That was cool.
He is a really, really busy guy, but he made time to regularly, personally interact with each and every one of the clients. And again, it's not a long list. It's more than a handful, but it's not a soccer team. So, that's the idea. People that I've known. But to a T, he connected with them personally. And he wasn't calling all the time to say, hey, here's what the case is and this and this. It was, how you doing? How you feeling?
That is Dan
what are you
right
going
there.
through? And wanted to make sure they were doing okay. Yeah, they talked about the legal stuff, but he has people on his staff that'll do that. He made the personal effort to connect with the clients. When he says he goes to battle for them, he does. He cares. Yeah, I mean, choose Dan.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate Dan. Good text message here from Janet. How ironic that American journalists are telling the truth in Russia, but covering it up here at home.
Nice one, Janet. That's good. That's really well done. I appreciate that one.
5631. Shouldn't Russia be a no travel destination for Americans? Yeah, at this point, Bill Owens used to do a lot of business over there as well, especially after it opened up and communism fell in Russia. And I think he's withdrawn. I don't think he's engaged there anymore. I don't think anybody's going back there.
No,
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. And
you're just going to become a tool. And I watched, believe it or not, Billy.
Yeah. Ooh, what did you
I
watch?
watched a Brittany Griner documentary.
What?
I did.
Was your remote broken?
I was
ran out of
like,
batteries?
who is this person? And what was Russia like? Dude.
Oh. Yeah, I had heard about that. Okay, so it's the Post.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
She got treated like hell.
Oh, I'm sure.
Shaved her head.
Yeah.
Because of the lice in the prison that she had to deal with, and just working every day and just manual labor. And she had such a small little thing that they popped her with. They'll find anything. I've experienced it personally. They will find anything and then throw you in the gulag, use you as a political pawn to get some assassin back.
Yep.
No, do not go to Russia.
And when you're in prison as an American, you are an example, because they will use you.
That's exactly right.
Yep. They'll use you to send a message to the regular prisoners. They're like, look, if we can treat this American this way, you think we care about you at all? You think we even have a second about whether or not we're going to break your leg or cut your hand off if we're doing this to the American? How do you think we view you? Yeah, the American's a target because of that. It's enforcement. Yeah, it's awful.
Well, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill show. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS. you tried to Google Donald Trump recently? Some interesting stuff happening on Google. And do you think that Donald Trump's going to be treated fairly by the social media companies? So there's a few things that have popped up here recently that are kind of interesting. One is if you try to type in assassination attempt of Donald Trump, it wouldn't pop up. It was almost like the whole thing was, I'm going to see if this still happens. Attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Okay, so now it's popping up, but originally it wouldn't. And Google's response was, well, that's because it's a violent thing and we don't want to kind of auto fill in violence. That was kind of their initial response. But then there were some other things that popped up. If you typed in Donald Trump rally, let's see if they fix this. You get a whole bunch of news. Yep. Donald Trump rally. Here's the top story. Kamala Harris challenges Donald Trump for debate. Democrats to run newspaper ads in Trump rally locations calling for debate. Say it to my face is another headline. Harris calls out Trump during Atlanta rally. At boisterous Georgia rally, Harris dares Trump to say it to my face. So if you type in Donald Trump rally, all the news headlines are about Kamala Harris's rally and her comments about Donald Trump. And then if you scroll down, you get news about shooting. And then Donald Trump. Trump rally gunman stopped firing after local officers shot at him. And so the headlines seem to skew this way. I don't think that this is a mistake at all. I think that this is deliberate. If I just type in Donald Trump, okay, I do get some information about him. But again, the headlines: Trump escalates race attacks on Harris, worrying some Republicans. Kamala Harris now leads Donald Trump in 7 national polls. Harris closes in on official nomination and running mate. Those are the headlines if you type in Donald Trump. I think Google, who's, I think it's something like 90+% of their ever political donations have gone to Democrats. There's not Republicans or conservatives there, are skewing this against the Trump, against the president, Donald Trump. And I think this is deliberate. And I think they're trying to rig the election, Billy.
Really? How? Okay. I disagree with you, not surprisingly. But how is this rigging the election? That's the part, because I've heard this before. And I heard the stories originally. Like, oh my gosh, they're banning Donald Trump and the assassination and stuff.
Yep.
Explain that to me. Yeah, explain to me. How is that happening?
So I think, like I said, I think this is deliberate. I think that the little puppet masters behind Google, because you and I have talked about this before, that you want algorithms, right? Algorithms are built purposely. Otherwise, you just see random videos all the time that you don't care about. So there's this effort to build an algorithm to serve you specific content. The content that's being served here is not favorable to the president, oftentimes highlights and elevates Kamala Harris, and in many ways initially tried to kind of push past the assassination attempt. So I think it's rigged to try to help Kamala Harris.
Now, do you think you would get the same results in the 48 hours after the shooting in Pennsylvania? Do you believe that the Google algorithm would deliver to you the same pro-Biden, pro-Kamala information?
Probably not within 48 hours, but we're a few weeks removed from it now.
Yeah. Here's the thing is, on that Google search, take a look at the headlines underneath it. Look at when they were written. It'll tell you in gray the frequency. And that first, and again, I have my own issues with Google based on, how deep do we go down this rabbit hole? Okay. Based on how Google originally started and the claims of the original founders about what they were going to do.
Do no evil.
And, yes, exactly. And the idea is they weren't going to do the advertising and do the boosting based on if you're paying us, etc.
Yeah.
And now, if you scroll down, it's halfway down the page before you can get to actual algorithm search results. Everything else is generated many times based on pay.
Right.
And the news is just and the blurbs that appear up top of the news are just going to be the most recent stories that have those words involved in your search. That's all that's going to be. So you would get more Donald Trump stories after the shooting, but then when Kamala gets into the race and says stuff about Trump, when you Google that, that's the stuff that the search algorithm in the news is going to pop up because the relevancy, the time value.
Here are the top stories about Kamala Harris. If you type in Kamala Harris, here are the top stories, okay? Reuters, fact check. Kamala Harris has long identified as black, contrary to Trump claim. The Guardian, Kamala Harris campaign raises $310 million, far outpacing Trump's funding. MSNBC, Trump's attack on Kamala Harris's race show profound ignorance, okay? Those are the top 3 headlines if you type in Kamala Harris. Here's the top 3 headlines for Donald Trump. Kevin McCarthy's first reaction to Donald Trump saying Kamala Harris isn't black. And then it kind of cuts off. We'll pull that up. Second one. Second headline. Trump escalates race attacks on Harris, worrying some Republicans. Newsweek. Kamala Harris now leads Donald Trump in 7 national polls. Top 3 headlines for Kamala Harris, all positive. Top 3 headlines for Donald Trump, all negative.
But hasn't that kind of been the thing that happened in the last 24 to 48 hours? I mean, the stuff that he did at the National Association of Black Journalists.
Do you think Donald Trump has done anything positive in the last 48 hours?
I'm just talking about the news cycle. And this is going to be the problem. And this is really kind of fun, actually. I'm really enjoying this because this gets a little bit into a deeper conversation I don't think some people are having. And again, this is why you listen to the show here with Jeff and Bill on 710 KNUS. I think that's part of the struggle that Trump is having right now, is that he can't find a way to dominate the news cycle in a positive manner like he used to. If you think about how he dominated the news cycle prior, it was either Donald Trump is doing this and Joe Biden's really, really old. That was it, especially even when it was going through the court cases. He had daily coverage of when he would stand out in front of the court and talk. And that was circulated around the world. So he did have that. I think he is struggling to find air in this news cycle now that Kamala is in the race, that she keeps inside the news cycle. She keeps the momentum going forward. And then the one time that he does get a chance recently at the National Association of Black Journalists, it does not go well. In my opinion, he went on stage and self-immolated. And so that's going to be the coverage because that's what people are going to be talking about. And that's basically, and unfortunately, inside of the Google end of the news search, and it's inaccurate sometimes, but it is greatest interest to greatest number of people. That is going to be their default. And it is done by AI and it is done, through an algorithm. But I just disagree that they are putting their thumb on the search engines. Just like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I understand your point.
Yeah.
But no way. I just gave you 3 examples. This will continue. We'll continue to watch it. But I think that they're rigging the system. Top 3 articles for Kamala Harris, all very positive. Top 3 articles for Donald Trump and Google, all negative. That will continue, my guess, throughout the campaign because the people in charge believe that Donald Trump must be stopped and they're going to skew Google searches, which result 90% of the searches against Donald Trump.
I've got now, and I have the news bubbles that they've got. But if I search Kamala Harris, the third story that I have down is actually the first story that pops up is 12 days. Kamala Harris has not held a press conference since emerging as a presumed Democrat nominee. The third story down on my search is GOP accuses Harris of hiding from the press. Most Dems don't care.
And you typed in Kamala Harris.
Typed in Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I got on my searches. So maybe they're trying to change my mind. No, I'm kidding. I'm just saying that it was just interesting. I'm just playing the role.
Yeah,
that's
no.
I'm just playing there.
That raises a really interesting point. Give us a call. Let us know. Do you think it's rigged? Do you think Google is rigged against Donald Trump? Or, to Billy's good point right there, this is just the news cycle, and he just tried it. And it showed different results. Let me know. Look, if you are considering selling your home, go with the team that is not only going to give you top-level service, but will help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble is proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you a list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, but isn't it all about how much you put into your pocket after closing? The Empower Home team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it, guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll get to the phones next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
So is Google rigging the system against Donald Trump? I think there's lots of evidence of it. Billy disagrees. Let's go to the phone line. Frank, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning.
Of course there is evidence that Google does its own thing and leans left. You know, do you remember that old song, the folk song, "The Answer, My Friend, is Blowing in the Wind"?
Oh, yeah.
Who was that, Peter, Paul, and Mary?
Yeah, that's Peter, Paul, and Mary.
You know, but that's the sad truth about our political and voting system now, that there's a certain percentage of this voting population that is blowing in the wind. And times have changed that nowadays they get their information from these sources and they make up their mind quickly because they're used to getting a quick answer, like they said about the Democrats when with Obama's nomination at Denver, Colorado. The Democrats are a mile high and an inch deep, and you know that pertains to some of our thinking, sadly. Hey, what is Billy? But the Google does have a lot of information. What is the GNP? If you could Google it, of the United States.
Oh, didn't know I was doing the test here. Hang on, I got to change some screens.
You like tests and challenges.
26 trillion. Or, yeah, 26 trillion.
You got the screen open. Thank you.
26 trillion. Okay, let's look at this election in a more business-like way. Okay, everybody's marveling at the $300 million that the Democrats raised for Kamala to win this election. When you think of it on a purely business level, to say we can buy politicians for this amount of money or that amount of money, and for that, those politicians, either left or right, can sway this country to go a certain way. It doesn't take very small percentage of that GNP of the United States to get a lot of things done in a lot of industries to the favor of people who are willing to give that small pittance to the politicians to do their bidding. And that's what we've continually got. So that bidding will continue right up to the election. And the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Well,
to the outcome of the election.
And Frank, I appreciate the call. We're getting text message here. You conservatives, you're all up about your conspiracy theories. I just like to point out we tend to be right about a lot of this stuff, where COVID came from, how effective are those mask mandates in the vaccine. Biden is struggling mentally. You know, all conspiracy theories, and then we end up being right. I think Google's in on the fix.
And so, what would the question is, and would that be wrong? That's a better question. It's a better way to ask it. Is it wrong what Google's doing?
When you have 90, that's a good question, Billy. When you have 90% of all the search, particularly as it relates to low information voters, and you can skew it a certain way, I don't think that's very fair. This is where I kind of look at Google more as a publishing company.
Why isn't it fair?
Than just a free place. Why isn't it fair?
Yeah, why isn't it fair?
Well, are you saying because it's a private company, it can kind of do what it's want, right?
Let's just assume that they are doing this. Okay, just for the conversation, we'll take the position that they're doing it.
No, that's a really good question.
Why wouldn't it be? Why is it not fair?
Because I would want them to be open about it, right? So if you go, look, we think Donald Trump is a real threat to this democracy, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that people see the terrible side of him and the best side of Kamala Harris. That would be one thing. But if you're going to kind of claim to be a neutral search engine that's providing kind of fact-based news, and then all of your articles skew one way in a deliberate effort to try to get somebody elected, then that seems fraudulent to me.
Well, could we supplant the noun Google and put the noun Fox News in that critique as well? Because Fox comes out, and it is obviously skewed, and they come out and say that they are, quote, fair and balanced. Now, they haven't used that in a while, but that would be the question.
Well, they also use the term news.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be the term. Is I find it interesting that everybody's mad always about the other side and the critique. And the thing for me with Google being the private company is, even if they are doing what you allege, and I don't agree, but even if they are, so what? They're a private company, and there are all sorts of other search engines out there. Do better. It's competition. If it's really this bad, beat them.
Beat them with And with that, we want to thank our sponsors, DuckDuckGo.
Yes.
All right. When we come back, new jobs reports out. We're going to dive into those details. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 8 a.m. I don't think my microphone's on, Billy. Good morning, Denver. It's 8 a.m. and I want you to just listen to this song and hit the snooze button and go back to bed. Because it's a Friday. Oh, it's baby, in the Mile High City, and you gotta get up and get at it. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with the Honorable Bill Thorpe. bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. Most of the time, it's pretty crazy, too. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Add another cup of coffee to your day, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up in just a second, we're going to talk with the CEO of Red Balloon. This is a conservative job search company about the monthly jobs report that just came out about 90 minutes ago. What does it look like for our country? Are there concerns we may be heading into a recession? We'll get all this and more. Plus, the state of the job report for the state of Colorado. You're not going to want to miss that. Let's first check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 73 and sunny with smoke in the air on this Friday, expecting a high of 97 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, there's some progress in the Stone Canyon fire near Lyons. It's now at 30% containment, but has burned more than 1,500 acres. Larimer County officials say at least 24 structures have burned in the ongoing Alexander Mountain fire west of Loveland and has burned more than 8,000 acres. And let's see, also 5% containment. The Quarry fire in Jefferson County came within a quarter mile of structures on Thursday. It is 0% contained. A man is dead after police say he jumped from an upper floor of the Lindsay Flanagan Courthouse in Denver Thursday. 2 other people suffered minor injuries as a result of the incident, and both were taken to the hospital. All court proceedings and services were canceled for the rest of the day. The president and the vice president were out late last night to welcome Evan Gershkovich and Paul Whelan and others released from Russia in the negotiated prisoner swap. Harris spoke, but hasn't faced the cheerleading press in a month.
This is an extraordinary day, and I'm very thankful for our president and what he has done over his entire career, but in particular as it relates to these families and these individuals, what he has been able to do to bring the allies together on many issues, but in particular this one. This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
Robert O'Brien is.
I know there's
not a ramble.
There's not a world leader that's going to take her seriously if we elect her as president of the United States.
It's so dangerous. No, you are exactly right. And she has to face the media or the press. Come on, in the next week, you would think. Just amazing. Everything she's doing everything with rappers, and God only knows.
Blake, the fact that this machine, this leftist progressive machine, is going to try to push her through to lead this country proves they don't care about America.
No, they hate
I don't you can be
They
progressive and
power.
listen to that and go, that is who's going to be the top of the executive branch here in the United States of America. They didn't give you a primary. They forced Biden out. They've elevated her. You had no choice, and that is who you're going to get behind. Come on, have a sense of a bit of patriotism.
Has flip-flopped on every issue,
every
single issue, border wide open. She's the cause. They told you she's not the czar. On and on and on and on. It does not stop.
No,
they hate us.
Yep.
And they hate you if you're a Democratic voter. You're a Democrat voting for her or whoever's in.
Yeah, I saw Christine Duran posted the ballot for the DNC convention. And Blake, it looked like it came from a communist country. You had the choice. Here's the choice you had as a delegate to the DNC.
Yep.
Kamala Harris and present.
Jeez.
That was it.
Wow.
This is the party of democracy.
Yep.
It's like you're in Somalia and the warlord hands you a ballot with a gun behind it. And it's like, who are you going to vote for?
No doubt. And they did it before. They'll boo God at their convention. I guarantee that. You'll hear that, and you'll never hear. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Once again, I've said this 20 times, but I have never heard that convention start chanting USA, USA. Have you?
I have not. We're going to be watching it. And in fact, Blake, I got some news to announce here.
Okay, I love it.
Guess who's going to the DNC?
Uh-oh. No way.
I'm heading there,
Kelly
baby.
Michaels' dime, or is Kelly going with it?
We have found some generous funding.
That's right.
Yeah, so we have found someone that, the thing is, though, that Jeff is going to be there in Chicago live. I'm back here because, well, the statute of limitations hasn't expired. So I'm not allowed to travel outside the States, at least not for a few more years. So, so I'm stuck here.
Heading to the DNC, baby.
Man, that is going to be a scene. Holy smokes. You better have all your gear on.
So, Blake, to that point, I actually looked up the flak jackets that press wear when they cover Hamas in Israel.
How much?
I was like $750. That's a little bit outside my price range.
Man.
But I want to cover what's happening outside. We're going to be covering the speeches. We're going to be broadcasting from the Salem station in Chicago. It's going to be wild coverage, man. Because
Marky going with you, or who's going?
No, it's just me. Just me.
You, huh?
Heading out there and working with the Salem team in Chicago. So
okay, good.
It'll be fun.
That's going to be awesome. President Biden considering U.S. defenses for Israel in the event of an attack by Iran. Couldn't remember Bibi and Netanyahu's name. Harris helps him out, the VP. You could barely hear it, but you can hear it.
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with Prime Minister today. And very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. He should move on it, and they should move on it now.
Kind of what Jeff was talking about. Harris's campaign has raised $310 million, making it the biggest grassroots, quote unquote, fundraising effort in presidential campaign history. The money doesn't include what Harris took over from the Biden campaign. And people like Dana Bash from CNN will continue to pump up the Democrats. You'll hear her just glaze the president near the end of this.
President Trump has said repeatedly that he could have gotten the hostages out without giving anything in exchange. What do you say to that? What do you say to President Trump now, former president?
Why didn't he do it when he was president?
Sir, what did you
I think that was what they call a mic drop moment at the end there.
No, that was an answer the question before you drop to the floor moment. He had to go to the bathroom. Former President Trump says men shouldn't be able to compete against women and hates seeing it in Olympic boxing. And then there's Schmucky Schumer at it again, introducing a bill to strip former President Trump of prosecution for acts that violate federal criminal law, despite last month's Supreme Court ruling granting presidents broad immunity.
Chief Justice Roberts is derelict in his responsibility. He should be cleaning this up. He's not, and that's why we in Congress have an obligation to do it. And even violating our democracy with the ridiculous, awful decision that presidents are kings, that if they do something they think is official, that they can do, as Nixon said, whatever they want.
Says the guy who helped install VP Harris, despite Democrats not even having a say in the replacement of Biden. Katie Ledecky is now the most decorated female swimmer in Olympic history. Ledecky added a 13th medal to her collection after the U.S. 4x200 meter freestyle relay team took silver on Thursday. Simone Biles wins her second gold in the gymnastics all around.
It's just insane. It's crazy. It all paid off, and I couldn't be more excited for how the night played out.
U.S. women's basketball is now 2-0. They defeated Belgium 87-74. The U.S. rowing team shocked the world with Nick Mead, Justin Best, Michael Grady, and Liam Corrigan earning the first gold medal in men's 4 rowing since 1960.
It literally felt like a dream. Like I literally didn't quite believe that that was happening. You know, once you get to that sort of 600 or 700 meter mark, you're in the meat of the race and you know, okay, it's a race.
Broncos continue training camp. It's 69 in Brighton, 70 in Lone Tree, and 73 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on TGIF. Friday.
Partly cloudy skies, continued very
Blake
warm
Olson,
and hazy.
News
There
Talk,
will be a
7
handful of thunderstorms this afternoon and evening, mid to upper 90s today. Lows tonight, mid 60s with storms ending. Sunny Saturday, hot, mid 90s, maybe an isolated thunderstorm, 60 Saturday night. Hot, upper 90s Sunday, late day thunderstorms, better thunderstorm chances Monday through Wednesday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream annuities can provide, guaranteed payments giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 King & U.S. Weather Center.
We're on.
Hey, we are.
Billy?
Yeah. Computers are being weird.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Our new monthly jobs report is out. What does this mean, especially for the state of Colorado, for the direction of our economy, and for our country? Well, to join us is Andrew Crapuchettes, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He's the red balloon.
There. It's Crapuchettes.
Crapuchettes. I was close.
Yeah, you were very close.
It's French. I think it's French.
Yeah, we were doing other stuff. I was fixing other stuff behind the scenes. We didn't get a chance to talk about that, even though I talked to Andrew a second ago. Yeah.
Andrew, so glad you're on the show. You're the CEO of Red Balloon, which provides conservatives an opportunity to go out there and get a job in this crazy job market. Andrew, what are the latest job reports telling us?
Well, he's there. We know he's there. Oh, this is great.
We're having some fun tech
This is
stuff
a Friday.
today. Andrew, can you hear me?
Friday. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Talk amongst yourselves. Unfortunately, it's you for a second. I'm going to dial back in because I think there's a technical thing that the thing is muting me. So I'm going to be right back.
Well, here we go. I'm going to give you the updates from CNN. U.S. economy adds just 114,000 jobs last month, and unemployment rose to 4.3%. The U.S. labor market cooled off far more than expected last month, underscoring concerns that the economy has slowed down too quickly and could end up in a recession. Businesses added just 114,000 jobs in July, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics data released Friday, and the unemployment rate expectedly leapt to 4.3%, which is the highest since October of 2021. Do we have Andrew back?
Do we? It's
hello,
there.
hello.
All
Hey, Andrew,
right,
can you hear us?
Andrew from Red Balloon. He's the CEO. Give us some insight on what this job report looks like.
Well, we got a job report this morning that is a lot lower than a lot of economists expected. It's a lot of economists were expecting 175,000 jobs in the economy. We saw less than 115,000, 114,000. A lot of people are skeptical of the job report anyway, given the number of revisions that they're seeing month over month. So as predicted, the last 2 months, both May and June, we saw downward predictions of what actually happened in those months. And as I tell a lot of people, if I had an accountant who had as many mistakes and had to make downward revisions on their numbers as the job report does, then I would fire that accountant. So, but that being said, 114,000 jobs, which is way lower than economists expected, and actually not a good sign. The unemployment rate actually ticked up 0.2%, so 4.3% now. And so I think the Fed's going to look at these numbers, and we're going to see the interest rates come down in September and probably again in October. Although unfortunately, a lot of those numbers are already kind of baked into what the market's expecting. But that's what we're seeing with the job number right now. A lot of businesses, and obviously redballoon.work, we get to work with a lot of small businesses all across the country. We also get to work with a lot of job seekers. And we've been asking them, how do they feel about the economy because of the skepticism about the Fed numbers that are coming out. And a lot of them have felt like we were either in a recession or going into a recession for quite a while, even though the BLS, BEA are not showing that right now. So a lot of them are saying that, look, we can't pay our bills. We have job seekers saying that over 40% of them say they simply are having to delay paying their bills because they don't have the cash to do it, or they only have 2 weeks.
I don't think that's a suspenseful pause. I don't think so.
You are muted.
Oh, thank you. That's what my wife wants to do me all the time. She's trying to find that button. Okay, let me go dial back in. Hang on. This is
all right.
Is the show over yet? I'll be right back.
I think to Andrew's point, you're seeing people with record credit card debt. I heard the other day that the number of people seeking credit counseling has reached record levels or close to record levels. And so I think that this has been coming for a while, that the economy is not as good as some were pushing out, particularly from the Biden administration, and the numbers are catching up here and things aren't going that well. Andrew, we get you back?
Cannot talk or listen until the host admits you to the meeting.
Well, I guess we're not in the meeting. It's our show. How come we're not in the meeting? What's going on?
We got to stop broadcasting from our van down by the river.
I'm not in charge of anything today. I do not know what happened to all the permissions I have to some of the computer systems here overnight. But evidently, I'm just saying that if they want to have a meeting with me after the show, things are not going to go well. Some of you will get your wish.
Is Andrew back?
I don't know. Let's try again. Andrew, there? Nope, we are in hold. I love this. We have hold music in our own show with our own guest. This is great. This is just
I can
wonderful.
see Andrew on your camera over there.
Oh, yeah.
And Andrew can hear us.
Yeah, but this is nice music. Well,
we have old music.
On those days when you have lots of stress and things aren't going right. It's things like these that
I think Andrew can hear us, but there is old music. Where is that even coming from?
We're not in the meeting. Whoever... I'm going to go dial another number again. I'll be right back.
All right. The surprisingly weak July jobs report, which also showed that both May's and June's estimated gains were revised lower, increases fears that the labor market is not cooling gradually to pre-pandemic levels, but possibly weakening outright. Taken on its own, this is a, quote, treading water jobs report. The former chief economist of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, who now serves as Yale's Budget Lab director, told CNN.
Shall we try again?
All right. One last time. Andrew, we got you?
Nope. Music.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, there we go. Hey,
Oh,
Friday morning victory.
Yeah. And look at that. Oh, and we're all out of time. We got to go. I'm kidding.
No. So Andrew, he's the CEO of the Red Balloon. Please continue.
Okay, all right. I don't know what you heard so far, but a lot of economists were expecting 175,000 jobs. Instead, we had 114,000 jobs. And a significant echo.
It gets better and better. Andrew, we're going to have to pause there for a second because you're echoing back on us. And
all right,
this gets better
I
and better.
am going to talk to you all about rolling out shelves while you all try to our specific problems. The quality of the products are excellent. The product and quality of the labor installation is outstanding. The customer service is unsurpassed. I absolutely recommend Roll 'em Out Shelves. They're very good listeners, and they have great suggestions for cabinetry solutions. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today. That's 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. Rollemoutshelves.com. We'll continue with
deep breath. Let's see if we can bring him on just right now. And hold music.
All right, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. I hate technology.
can go find some good employees out there that are not crazy woke. And the CEO is Andrew Crapuchettes. Go ahead.
Their advertisements are fantastic.
Yeah,
it's really good. Their marketing, whoever does their marketing, we shouldn't say it out loud, probably, and Andrew shouldn't hear us, but they deserve a raise. They're really clever. Their advertising and their marketing is top notch. They do a really good job. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to hear about that, as well as his analysis on the jobs. We had a little technical difficulties in the first part of this hour, but we figured it out. Andrew, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, morning.
Hey, good morning, and happy Friday to you. You know, we're just all getting ready for the weekend. I think that's what the technical details were telling us. It's time. It's time.
Zoom hit the bar early, I think, is what happened.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's exactly right. An interesting economic report that came out this morning, probably one of the most watched economic reports, which is the jobs number, how many jobs are being created in the economy for last month. And economists were expecting 175,000. If you look at ADP, they thought it would be more like 122,000. And then the BLS came out with a number of 114,000. So significantly below expectations. And we saw an uptick in the unemployment rate from 0.2% of 0.2% up to 4.3%. So we're seeing the unemployment rate continue to go up. And we surveyed here at redballoon.org. We went ahead and surveyed 100,000 job seekers because we don't totally trust the government numbers, given the number of revisions that we often see in months after the spotlight has been taken off the numbers. But we decided we would survey 100,000 job seekers on redballoon.org and just kind of ask them what they felt like they were seeing in the economy. And many of them are feeling the pain of the economy. In fact, over 40% of them said they are delaying paying bills because they simply don't have the cash, because any raises they've gotten or any income they're getting is simply not keeping up with inflation. It's not keeping up with just the cost of living these days in Biden's America. So I think that's kind of the big story that comes out of this. So a very soft job number that I expect the Fed will look at, and we will see a decrease in the interest rates in September, probably another one in October. The market's kind of priced both of those in already. And honestly, you know, the Fed is a little bit of a political organization, and they need to have the economy look good coming into November. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now, although 63% of our job seekers say that they have found it more difficult to find a job over the last 6 months. So the economy is definitely not as hopping as it has been in the past. And this job number, whether you believe it or not, does show that that is down quite a bit.
So we're talking with the CEO of Red Balloon, Andrew Crapuchettes. Andrew, I want to ask you about the labor market, because I remember at a certain point, just about everybody in my life I knew, and still to this day, was working at least 2 jobs to try to make things work. Because of inflation, I think it was something like you need to have $12,000 more just to be able to live at the same standard you did maybe 4 years ago. And so people were going out there and getting second jobs. It seemed like everybody was hiring at one point, but I feel like those help wanted signs have come down and things have cooled off a little bit. And are people still so a few questions. One, do people still need 2 jobs just to be able to live where they did 4 years ago? And then 2, is it just as easy to find a job, or is it getting more difficult to find a job these days?
Yeah, great questions. And absolutely, income is not keeping up with inflation. And a lot of people are skeptical of the inflation numbers because they're actually going to, because inflation, any data can be massaged to tell a story for you. And a lot of people are feeling that with the government data that's coming out about inflation, about the jobs and so on and so forth, because they're feeling the pain of going to the grocery store and paying whatever they're paying for milk and eggs and gas for their car. And so, yeah, they're looking for a second job, and that second job has gotten a lot more difficult to find. So we surveyed a lot of our employers, and I get talked to dozens of employers every single week because of our work here at Red Balloon. And most of them that I'm talking to right now, they're not hiring for expansion. They're trying to hold on to their people, but they're not doing any expansion. So they're just kind of in a hunker down and wait and see mode. And I think they're doing that, and they're probably going to continue to do that till November. A couple of weeks ago, I think after the attempted assassination and the J.D. Vance announcement, Trump was looking like a foregone conclusion for the White House. And I was talking to businesses, and they're like, I think I'm going to start investing. I'm going to start, kind of getting off the stool that I'm on and actually go out and do some things in the economy and create jobs and all those things. But honestly, over the last couple of days, employers are starting to be a little concerned because obviously we're in a honeymoon period that will pass with the Harris administration or the Harris campaign, and so they're kind of like, oh shoot, I better be careful. I better continue to hunker down and just see how things play out. So unfortunately, what's happening in the White House does have a huge impact on the optimism and people's kind of belief that they can succeed in this economy. And right now they don't feel like they can.
Talking with Andrew Crapuchettes, Red Balloon CEO. Andrew, do you have any stats on Colorado and how things are affecting our state?
Yeah, we went ahead and surveyed the businesses in Colorado because we work with, we survey 80,000 businesses every month, and including people in Colorado. 90% of the businesses, now there is a sample bias here because we're working with largely conservative businesses, but 90% feel like the Biden economy is harmful for their business. And that's not surprising, but that is an overwhelming number. And remember, sometimes economic data for businesses can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that you can't succeed, then you're just going to be careful. And when you're super careful, you're not going to be able to take risks. You're not going to go out and do things. 47% of Colorado businesses believe that we're heading into a difficult recession, not just a recession, but a difficult recession, or that we're already in some form of recession already, despite what the government data says. 66% of Colorado businesses, they have to delay paying bills to manage cash flow. So that's the kind of the ramifications of what they're seeing in the economy is they're just being really careful. A lot of these businesses, and they're awesome businesses, right? They're just trying to support their community and their employees, but they're having to raise prices on customers. They're having to be careful about giving raises to employees because of the taxes and regulations that are feeling. In fact, 81% say they do not plan to hire or reduce staff. And what I hear from that is they have a loyalty to the people that they have already, and they're trying to take care of their current employees. Again, these are awesome businesses, but they're not necessarily looking to expand. So if they're losing someone, they're going to replace them. But they're just kind of, again, back to that hunker down and see. And if you look at the Colorado job seekers, because we've, again, surveyed a number of those, 69% of Colorado job seekers say their financial situation is worse over the last year, and 87% said it's more difficult to find a new job than it was 6 months ago. So I think to your point, those help wanted signs are not as prevalent as they were before, and people in Colorado, businesses are just being very careful with their cash. They're being careful with hiring for expansion, and the Colorado job seekers are really feeling that right now.
That is wonderful insight that you've provided for us on the state of Colorado. Now, Andrew, tell us, what is Red Balloon, your website, redballoon.org. Why'd you build it? What do you guys do that's different than maybe like some of the other job websites like a LinkedIn or something like that?
Yeah. When 2020 came around, 2020, 2021, when the world kind of lost their mind, I was a CEO of a large tech company, and my board decided that I was too conservative and Christian for their liking. And so I found myself delightfully unemployed, even though the business was doing very, very well. And so I was going to play golf and work on my housing development and just with my 5 kids, and life was going to be fine. And a friend kind of challenged me and said, look, you were just given a choice between your job and your values. And not everybody has a financial wherewithal to shrug off losing their job. And as conservatives or Christians, if we are canceled from Facebook, well, you're just going to kind of shrug that off. It doesn't matter that much. But if you're canceled from your ability to feed your kids and pay your mortgage, you're going to at least be tempted to compromise on something that you hold very dearly. And so this friend of mine was like, so you should, get off your couch and go do something with all your skills and talent and money and make a job board. So redballoon.org came from that. And our stance early on in the vaccine mandate was, look, if you're an adult, you can decide what you want to do with the vaccine, but it's probably a conversation you have with your doctor, not your HR department, about what you put in your body. And that was controversial enough that the job board really just took off. And so we have job seekers that have found freedom at work. And look, work is still hard. If you go work for a conservative business or a business that respects your freedom, they're going to still expect you to show up and work really hard, but you're not going to have all that woke ideology kind of jammed down your throat all the time. And so that's what redballoon.work is all about. If you're a business that wants to find, hardworking job seekers who aren't going to be whiners, that's where you can find them at redballoon.work. We also do a recruiting service. So if you want us to take over a hiring process and find a fill a hard to find position, we do that for a lot of businesses all over the country. And it's been really fun to be a blessing to businesses and be part of the story. I get thank you notes from perfect strangers all the time saying, you saved my marriage, because of the job that I was in was just jamming a worldview down my throat. And it was having an impact on my relationship with my family, with my friends, with my church community. And now I'm free at work, and it allows me to work really hard, enjoy my work, and not have to walk on eggshells around all my fellow employees all the time. So that's what Red Balloon's all about. We're trying to redeem the world of work, and so far, so good.
Andrew, I got to tell you, I think this is a brilliant idea. I've even in my own personal life, I've been like, because of my political beliefs, because of things I've said publicly that aren't wild, but like scriptural.
Right. Right.
I'm like, somebody's going to look at my ex account and be like, well, he believes in traditional marriage. There's no way we're going to hire him to be our comms director at like a major company because of Pride Month and all that other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, and if the company did hire me, I'm sure there'd be some employees that would revolt, like, oh, he's a Bible believing Christian. How terrible it is. So I think this is so important. I'm just looking at, you guys got jobs all over the place. Everything from lube technician at Bighorn Automotive to third shift night drop box driver to account managers and technicians. And I mean, just in Colorado, you have 106 jobs.
Yeah, that's right. And we're just getting going. I mean, we've been
that's one page of 106 just here in Colorado.
That's right. And we're just getting going. We want to be in a spot where if you feel like you're, and I hate to even use this language because this has been a language, I'll say, of the left. If you feel like you're being discriminated at work, and a lot of our job seekers feel like, in fact, we did a survey, 63% of our job seekers feel like that if their employer knew that they were a conservative or a Christian, that it would cost them their job, cost them a raise, or cost them a promotion. And that feels a lot like discrimination. And we want to get back to an America that's full of meritocracy, where you are focused on the value you bring to your employer is really what drives whether you're going to get an opportunity to succeed at that employer. And that's what Red Balloon businesses are all about. It's protecting the rights and the freedoms of our employees. And when you do that, turns out those employees work really, really hard because they're being respected as adults and they don't mind working hard. And when you find people like that, all of a sudden as a business, you're thriving, you're making money. And it really is, again, it's just been such a blessing for us to be part of the story for so many employers and employees to be able to find each other and be in a position where they can succeed, prosper, and find freedom at work.
I used to work over at Colorado Christian University with their students there, and Target nearby would love to hire CCU students. And they said, because they don't steal from us.
I know,
so,
right?
Like basic biblical understanding and worldview it benefits a lot of people, even if you're not necessarily a conservative company. So this is a good place for them to shop. Well, Andrew Crapuchettes, I think I pronounced your last name right. Is that correct? Or Sheets?
It's pretty good. And unfortunately it's terrifying, right? And because it has a variety of swear words built into it. So if you can see the spelling, and in fact, I have 3 boys and 2 girls. The boys think it's the best name ever. And the girls are ready to get married. But it's Crapuchettes, unfortunately. There's no way around it.
Great.
Oh, man. Andrew, you probably had to fight your way home from middle school like every day.
On once or twice. But the nice part is, once you've heard all the jokes about Crapuchettes, nothing bothers you anymore.
Well, and it's French. What's his background? I think it's French.
It is
right?
French. It is French. Yeah. And when I'm in Paris, they say Crapuchet, and it sounds really cool. And here in America, they say Crapuchettes. And it
that's
doesn't sound
disappointing.
Very cool.
That's not cool.
Yeah, it is very disappointing. Yeah, it's not cool at all.
Do you know what it means in French?
Well, unfortunately, it's not not that exciting. I do know what it means. It means roughly translated a small frog over a pond. Which is not like, I wanted it to be like Mighty Bull conquers a dragon, or something like that, right? Small frog over a pond. So it's probably a derogatory term used for French people that went over to England or something like that, over a pond. I don't know, but
either that or some of your ancestors might have been witches, and they were just
also quite
something.
possible.
Yeah.
You never know.
Just
you
saying,
never know.
yeah.
But
Never know.
I'm sticking with it. Crapuchettes, no way around it.
I love it.
Well, redballoon.work is his website. You can get a sense of how professional they are with the analysis that he provides. Fantastic analysis on the job market report that just came out about 90 minutes ago, and then also doing a deep dive in the state of Colorado for us. Andrew, I hope we can have you on regularly to give us an update. I think you guys are doing great work at Red Balloon. And if you're an employer or an employee that wants to work for non-woke companies that's going to get to business over politics, go to redballoon.work and check out the great work they're doing there. Andrew, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrew. And I won't admit it too publicly after this show, but your marketing department is killing it. They do a really good job. You guys have got very, very smart and very intelligent advertising. You guys are hitting out of the park. Nicely done. Nicely done. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate it, and happy Friday, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. Hey, Billy, tell us about your back. How's it doing?
Yeah, it's doing great. Here's the thing. I was just talking to Andrew about the problems and the pains that people are having based on employment. Well, that also leads us into things like the problems and pains you have sitting at your desk, that neck, that shoulder, that back that aches, that knee. You've got a little bit of neuropathy that's starting to develop, or maybe it's even further, and it makes your day at work hard. It makes things nearly impossible. And because of what you're going through each and every day, you cut back on on those fun things. We're on Friday. But because of some of the pains that you're going through, you're not going to do the things that you would really like to. That's where I was a number of weeks ago. Then I found the team at Balance Wellspace. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. It's integrative medicine, and the reason it's made such a difference in my life is it's a one-stop shop. You can go one place and get chiropractor, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections. There's a long list of stuff I don't have time to read right now, and a bunch of also alternative methods that they use as well, because the FDA takes a long time to approve some of these things. They work. They've seen results with them, and so they're going to offer them to you as a possible solution. They're not going to come in and say, hey, you absolutely have to do A, B, C, and D. You go in and you see Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess, the team at Balance Wellspace. They do a full evaluation, talk to you about what hurts. They then take pictures, prod, they move things. They look at how well each one of your joints moves based on what your pain points and what your problems are. They then design a personally customized plan just for you. It's a wellness plan just for you, and the best part about it, it's one visit at a time. You're not going to go one place for the chiropractor, somewhere else to deal with the neuropathy, somewhere else to do wave therapy, somewhere else to... No, that's too much time. Here at balancewellspace.com, you walk in and the entire team is there. You just move from office to office to office, and everybody takes care of you. Yesterday, I was able to get a slight rehab workout in. I got traction on my knee. I had some amazing wave therapy that is breaking up the scar tissue in my right shoulder. I broke my shoulder more than 25 years ago, and I have pain in it. There are times in which I actually can't raise it too far above my head. Now, I can raise my arm like I'm in the back of the room. It's amazing what it's given me the ability to do, and I don't have that deep throbbing pain that I had all the time. My collarbone on my right-hand side is dislocated from my sternum. Not a usual thing you can do. I ripped it off the bone. And because of the problems my shoulder was causing, that collarbone was rubbing against my rib cage. It was popping and cracking and grinding bone on bone. You don't know, that hurts. Now it's not, because the regenerative care and the trigger point injections that they've done with me. I can't wait to see what they're going to be able to do with my knee. So what they've done with my back is nothing short of remarkable. I had problems walking. I had problems moving. I now have more movement, and the best thing about it is no pain. There were times during the day I'd walk around as if someone had taken a small Swiss Army knife and stabbed it into my lower back. The pain was constant. It doesn't exist anymore. I want them to make the same changes in your life they are making in mine. Go talk to Dr. Julie. Go talk to Dr. Jess and the entire team there at Balance Wellspace. They're located in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2. If you can find the Officers Club, you can find Balance Wellspace. They're right across the street. Brand new offices, plenty of parking. And for me, big shady trees. I like parking under the trees. I want to keep my car cool, especially in our hot summers. Go check them out. Give them a call today. You can find all the information you need and to find out how they can help you at balancewellspace.com. balancewellspace.com. Trust the team I trust.
Glad to hear you're getting the help
It's
you need there,
incredible.
Billy.
It is crazy. It's been remarkable.
When we come back, I've got some remarkable audio from Kyle Rittenhouse. You'll never guess who he's supporting for president of the United States, and it's probably not somebody you think. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. All the tech little gremlins have decided to have some fun with us on Friday here.
How is this not Monday? How is it not?
I got some really interesting audio from Kyle Rittenhouse with regards to who he's voting for. And I've always found this interesting because Dudley Brown feels the same way about Donald Trump that Kyle Rittenhouse does. Now, you'd think these guys talking about gun owners would be all for Donald Trump, right? Republican, conservative. They're not. In fact, they're highly critical of Donald Trump as it relates to the Second Amendment. And here's my question is, are they right? Are they right to be critical of what Donald Trump has done for the Second Amendment? Look, there's times when I'm critical of Donald Trump on abortion issues. I don't think he's nearly strong enough being pro-life as I'd like him to be. But I think it's a binary choice between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is terrible when it comes to abortion and the sanctity of life. So, of course, I'm all going to vote for Donald Trump. But RMGO, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, Kyle Rittenhouse, Dudley Brown are saying, no, we're absolutely not going to vote for Donald Trump because we've got to send a message that if you're going to be a Republican and be this weak on the Second Amendment, you're not going to get our support. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Do we have the Rittenhouse on?
Yeah, you want to? Let's
All
see.
right, here's Rittenhouse.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you, and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
So give me a call, 303-696-1971. Do you agree with Kyle Rittenhouse, Dudley Brown, groups like RMGO, that if you're not there, if you're not all in on the Second Amendment, you will never get our votes, and they're going to write in Ron Paul? Or is this a binary choice and Kyle Rittenhouse is wrong? And you got to get behind Donald Trump because the alternative, Kamala Harris, is even worse. 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. We'll get into this and more in the 9 o'clock hour. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is. Oh, I'm not on. It is the 9 o'clock danger hour on the Jeff and Bill Show. It is Friday, August 2nd, 2024. It's going to be a hot one, 95 degrees outside. And we are stirring it up here. Kyle Rittenhouse not endorsing President Trump. I'm going to play the audio for you in just a second. And the phones are starting to light up. I got one open line. We're going to get to the others here in just a second. Is Rittenhouse right? Trump not strong enough on the Second Amendment. He will not budge. You go all the way with Kyle or you don't go at all. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app.
I don't think anybody should ever go full Kyle. Probably shouldn't do that.
Touche. Although, you know.
I know. No, we don't want to make it that bad. No,
those weren't the best of dudes.
Yeah, although I have to go talk to HR later, so you don't want to get into this conversation. No.
All right. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Happy Friday, 77. Sunny with smoke in the air once again. Expecting a high of 97 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, there is some progress in the fires up and down the Front Range. Stone Canyon fire near Lyons is now at 30% containment, but has burned more than 1,500 acres. At least 24 structures have burned in the ongoing Alexander Mountain fire west of Loveland and is only 5% contained. It has burned more than 8,000 acres since Monday. The Corey fire in Jefferson County is 0% contained. One person is dead and 3 others wounded following a Thursday afternoon shooting in Aurora. It happened shortly after 3 along Ironton Street, where responding officers found 4 people suffering from gunshot wounds in a parking lot. A man was pronounced dead at the scene, while the other victims had non-life-threatening injuries. A man is dead after police say he jumped from an upper floor of the Lindsay Flanagan Courthouse in Denver on Thursday. 2 other people suffered minor injuries as a result of the incident, and both were taken to the hospital. A weak jobs report, and Andrew from Red Balloon joined the fellas last hour.
114,000 jobs, which is way lower than economists expected, and actually not a good sign. The unemployment rate actually ticked up 0.2%, so 4.3% now. And so I think the Fed's going to look at these numbers, and we're going to see the interest rates come down in September and probably again in October. Although, unfortunately, a lot of those numbers are already kind of baked into what the market's expecting.
The president and vice president out late last night to welcome Evan Gershkovich, Paul Whelan, and others released from Russia in the negotiated prisoner swap. Harris spoke, but hasn't faced the lefty lunatic press in a month. It'd be pushovers, but still hiding her. Here's some word salad as she reacted to the prisoners returning.
This is just an extraordinary testament to the importance of having a president who understands the power of diplomacy and understands the strength that rests in understanding the significance of diplomacy and strengthening alliances. This is an incredible day.
Whoa, Robert O'Brien, former national security advisor.
But the big winner today, there's no question about it, is Vladimir Putin. Internally, he showed his security services at the FSB and the SVR that he can send assassins out to the West. He can murder people in broad daylight. And if they're captured, if his operatives are captured, he'll take an innocent American hostage, someone high profile like Brittany Griner for Victor Bout or Evan for this guy Krasikov, and he'll bring him home. And so he's bolstered his position with the security services that are key to his survival as the leader of Russia.
President Biden considering U.S. defenses for Israel in the event of an attack by Iran. Couldn't remember Prime Minister Netanyahu's name. Harris helps him out. You can barely hear it, but says Netanyahu. Listen.
I'm very concerned about it. I had a very direct meeting with Prime Minister today, and very direct. We have the basis for a ceasefire. He should move on it, and they should move on it now.
Iran has vowed to attack Israel in response to this week's assassination of a Hamas leader in Tehran. Harris's campaign has raised $310 million, making it the biggest quote-unquote grassroots fundraising effort in presidential campaign history. The money doesn't include what Harris took over from the Biden campaign. But once again, she has not faced the press in 1 month. Former President Trump hates seeing men beating up on women in boxing in the Olympics.
From day one, it'll be ended. I can tell you one thing. Men will not be playing in women's sports. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. The whole country is a laughing stock. Our country has become a laughing stock all over the world, and we're going to change it.
Katie Ledecky is now the most decorated female swimmer in Olympic history. Ledecky added a 13th medal to her collection. Simone Biles wins her second gold in the gymnastics all-around. The U.S. rowing team shocked the world, earning the first gold medal in men's 4 rowing since 1960.
It literally felt like a dream. Like I literally didn't quite believe that was happening. You know, once you get to that sort of 600 or 700 meter mark, you're in the meat of the race and you know, okay, it's a race.
Congratulations to them. And finally, it's Friday, my favorite soundbite of the week.
I call her Miss Lock Up a Brother for when she was the AG in California. A Negro knew, a black man knew that he was dead in the water. He was dead in the water. Matter of fact, you don't need a trial. You might well go into jail if you appear before her because she took pride in locking up black folk. And now all of a sudden she's trying to be sister girl. I'm telling it. Check out her record. She locked us up left and right. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, you did, Kamala, however I should pronounce it. You did. And now we're supposed to forget all that stuff.
I'm gonna live forever.
75 in Parker, 74 in Englewood, 77 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
As the toxic feels smaller when we support each other. But
they continue with the Power Hour.
You're
That's
going to
your
leave
favorite
me
bite.
Friday with her, aren't you?
Yes, man. I'm going to save this one forever.
don't make it about yourself.
Don't make it about
As
yourself.
white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes.
Yeah, don't forget that. Power Hour.
Gosh, I
before
went
the
to
weekend.
college with a dozen of them.
I think I may be related to a few.
If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals or
No. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Partly cloudy skies, continued very warm and hazy. There will be a handful of thunderstorms this afternoon and evening. Mid to upper 90s today, lows tonight, mid 60s with storms ending. Sunny Saturday, hot, mid-90s, maybe an isolated thunderstorm, 60 Saturday night. Hot, upper 90s Sunday, late-day thunderstorms, better thunderstorm chances Monday through Wednesday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 720-651-9800. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS.
I feel like this was Kyle Rittenhouse crying out to Donald Trump in the middle of the night.
Nicely done. That's good.
They're not happy. Here's Rittenhouse on Trump.
Hi, I'm Kyle Rittenhouse, Outreach Director for Texas Gun Rights. A lot of people are upset that I said I'm going to be writing in Ron Paul for President of the United States. And that is true. I will be writing in Ron Paul. Unfortunately, Donald Trump had bad advisors making him bad on the Second Amendment, and that is my issue. If you cannot be completely uncompromisable on the Second Amendment, I will not vote for you. and I will write somebody else in. We need champions for the Second Amendment, or our rights will be eaten away and eroded each day. I support my decision, and I have no takebacks.
No takebacks.
Why did you do that at the end? That was
completely uncompromisable.
Yeah, is that even a word? Is uncompromisable? I'm not sure that's
I
a
wonder
word.
about that too.
The other part that was again, can someone help Kyle write the script? Only because right there.
I think he was just speaking.
I know that's the
extemporaneous.
problem. That's the problem on that one because he gets to the end. He's like, and I support my decision. Really? It would be odd if you went the other way, Kyle. It would be weird to say, and I disagree with the decision I'm about to make. Some of the phraseology was just strange. I mean, I appreciate the narrative behind it, but the other part is, and this is on a total side note, I hate to burst young Kyle's bubble, but it doesn't matter if he writes in Rand Paul or not, because the rules in the election are, unless you are a declared write-in candidate, your ballot goes in the trash. So if you on your ballot write Donald Duck, that goes in the trash. It's
Billy
not counted for
Thorpe?
anything. Yeah, and don't do that. Please do not do that. I do not need any responsibility. I shouldn't be in charge of anything at all. I'm barely in charge of my own body at home, and that's probably a good thing because otherwise I may not be shaven and showered every day. So yeah.
Doug Texton, Rittenhouse, does he know that a write-in for Ron Paul is effectively a vote for Biden? While I admire his principles, this is a case of, to quote Mike Rosen, party trumps person.
Yeah, that's interesting because his vote simply will not be counted. They won't count. And one vote write-in for Rand Paul, they won't count that. It's just a non-count. It's as if you left the box blank unless Paul declares as a write-in candidate in that state. So in order for this to work, you would have to declare in every state in order to be in a write-in. Yeah, that's just how the rules work.
8422, Kyle may well write Ron Paul on a piece of toilet paper and flush it down the drain.
Nicely done.
I mean, it is, we hosted Kyle out at the Western Conservatives. Great kid, and enjoyed. We went out shooting with him and a number of folks the day after the summit to have some fun. Really enjoyed my time with him. I appreciate his deep, passionate commitment to the Second Amendment. But I think he's wrong on this one. I think this is a binary choice between Trump and Harris, and you're going to get behind one of those others. But with that, I want to add this caveat.
Yeah.
There's an element where Donald Trump starts to listen to the more liberal wings. I won't even say the Republican Party, but it seems like he sometimes listens to the press.
Yeah, I agree.
And those are when he makes his biggest mistakes. COVID, debt, sanctity of life, Second Amendment. It's almost like he's not willing to be all on the side of conservatives on some of those things. And you just kind of go, all right, well, you're a heck of a lot better than Harris. I mean, light years better than Harris from my perspective. But there are times where you kind of give the left an ear and you make bad decisions. So I think Kyle's critique of Trump on Second Amendment issues is correct, but I don't think the decision not to vote for him is right. Let's go to the phone lines. Jim, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Jim.
Morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's always a great day when I can get a English lesson from the smartest Thorpe on the planet. Sometimes we say things wrong like I regardless or irregardless when the words actually just start.
Jim, I just want to know when's that smart Thorpe show up? Because I got to talk to him. I got some questions, man. Because I got some real questions. Just tell me when he shows up.
I'm at the other Thorpes. You're
are you uncompromisable? Have we figured out a word? Is that a word yet?
You can make up words if you want. It won't be the first time. It's okay.
That's true.
I'll get over it. So listen, I've been saying that the undisciplined Donald Trump. I've been saying it since 2016 when I witnessed the total lack of discipline in virtually everything. I think our Second Amendment is more at risk now than ever before. Not just because of the man alone, but because of his followers. You do remember after the El Paso shooting, where he said, "Let's just take the guns and let the courts sort it out." And then, during the bump stock, he actually did put a mandate out to halt the bump stock. Now, thankfully, the Supreme Court reversed that, but it took a couple of years. But I got to tell you, I think the Second Amendment has never been at greater risk with a Manhattan businessman overseeing our country. I don't think he has our values. I don't think he has any of my values, but I voted for him.
And how important, I mean, this is, the pro-life community is kind of in the same position here too. He's not with us all the way. He's obviously better than the alternative, but how do you communicate to his administration that he needs to take our issues seriously? How do you do that? Can Trump just kind of ignore Second Amendment stuff and still get elected?
He can ignore whatever he wants, okay? Because he's the man, right? And it's, every cult needs a leader at this point. And I mean it when I say that. But I got to tell you, Donald Trump is an election machine. He is a machine when it comes to electing Democrats. We've witnessed that in every election since he stepped foot in that Oval Office. And I don't yet think he is done. I think with abortion behind all the voters, I think Donald Trump is going to motivate more people to vote than what the Republican Party can handle. And if you look at elections over history, the Republican Party succeeds when voter turnout is low. For God's sake, look at Texas. Texas is so thoroughly red because they've got such a low voter turnout in Texas. But you got to keep the city people from voting. It's just how it goes. I mean, there's statistics.
All right, Jim, appreciate the call.
So
Jim's line will be open, 303-696-1971. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I liked what Jim had to say there, and I do agree with him based on voter motivation and turnout.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump has the ability to motivate voters on a level I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And even looking back through history, it's difficult to find someone, personally for me, that motivates voters on this level. But that is both a positive and a negative. I have never seen a political candidate have this strong, unwavering support from the base. But I've also never seen a political candidate enrage voters on the other side. So he does push turnout, but he pushes turnout on both sides. And this is where I think the strategy is coming into play for the Republicans right now, because the game has changed. So how are you going to change your strategy? Because there were going to be Democrats and persuadable voters on that side that were going to stay home or just not vote because of Biden. There was really no enthusiasm. Now we've seen a boost in enthusiasm on the Harris side. So the problem being, can Donald Trump, in my mind, overcome that enthusiasm? Because we know he's going to get a level of turnout from his base, and he's going to get a level of turnout from people that they would vote for. If the Democrats ran a box of mashed potatoes then on a counter for 3 weeks, they'd vote for the mashed potatoes. It doesn't matter what that name is. They're going to vote no Trump. Now there are people on that Dem side that are now enthused and want to vote for Harris. Where's that balance? And the Republicans, I think, have about 2 weeks to figure this strategy out about how to go after Harris. But on the other side, Harris's team has that same 2 weeks to figure out how to keep this momentum going. How do you keep the wind in your sails? Because right now she's dominating the news cycle, and that's difficult, and that's a hard thing for Trump because he can't break through.
Can she do it without doing any media?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's go to Brant, Greenwood Village. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Brant.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I think the thing we've got to remember here is that Donald Trump delivered us a Supreme Court majority that gave us not only New York State rifle and pistol versus Bruin, but as the last caller said, also a ban. And right around the time of Obama's presidency is when we started to get real protection for our rights in the Supreme Court. And Donald Trump has helped us lock that down. And so for that reason, Rittenhouse has it wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, it's the left wants gun confiscation. Bottom line,
That's right.
Kamala Harris has even kind of hinted at what happened in Australia as a good model, which was basically turn in your guns. Sure, we'll pay you for it, but if you don't, you're going to get in trouble. So it's essentially a gun confiscation scheme.
I would agree.
So if that's the alternative, and I think this is a binary choice, then Republicans, from my perspective, are Second Amendment supporters, have to go with Trump. But this is very similar to what the Sanctity of Life groups have to deal with, which is, all right, our issues aren't a priority to this guy. They just aren't.
Mm-hmm.
He's got other issues he cares about. Okay. So how do you advance your policies in an administration that's not opposed to you, but doesn't prioritize you? You have to do it through staffing. You have to do it through congressional leadership. You have to do it through lawsuits, that type of way. So you're not going to get everything that you want, which is where I think Kyle wants to go. He wants, basically an RMGO president. You're not there. So the choice is between a candidate like Kamala Harris, who's opposed to you, versus a guy that may not be totally supportive of you, but isn't at least against you.
Exactly. And it sounds like Donald Trump has learned a lot from his first term. We had those problems with staffers leaking things to the press. He had people in his own cabinet against him. And from what I've heard from inside the campaign, it sounds like he's really figured out who to trust. And I'm willing to bet on that this year.
Interesting, Brent. And I appreciate the phone call. I don't know if you called before. Is it your first time, or we haven't heard your voice in a while? I like your perspective.
First time, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, thank you so much for picking up the phone and playing with us on a Friday. That means more than we could possibly express to you, that Jeff and I. That means a lot, man. Thank you. Got a question. And you've been listening, and I like to create problems. So let's create a problem here. So for Jeff, Brent, I understand the idea that it's difficult because of Donald Trump's position on the Second Amendment isn't as pure on the pro-life, not as pure as we need. But you do, I understand the compromise of having to choose Trump. The question I have, are you sending a message to both squishy conservatives and, more importantly, the left, that if you're willing to say, I will compromise on this principle that is so important to me just a little bit in order to get Trump in power, that tells the Democrats you're willing to compromise, that all we need is if we can get more of these levers, we already know you're willing to give up some things. We just have to make sure we can make it happen. Is that the message that's being sent if people vote for Trump rather than taking the Kyle route? What do you think?
I appreciate that perspective, but I think it actually sends the opposite message. I think when we allow the left to divide us, that's, as Kyle Rittenhouse, I think, is doing, that's when we allow them to control us. And I think perhaps in a situation where America's more conservative, yes, that could be the message. But what I'm seeing right now is we don't have the luxury of playing around. Maybe if we had a situation where we could win 350, 400 electoral votes easy, then we can have this conversation within our party. But until we convert the minds and hearts of Americans, we don't have this luxury.
Ooh, I like that. The idea of teamwork makes the dream work. We may not all agree on exactly how the team's put together, but as long as we get to the goal or protect the rights we're worried about, that's better. I like that, man. I appreciate that. Good job.
Brent, great call. Really great call.
Yeah,
Please call again.
Yeah.
Appreciate your insight. Billy, I think Trump straddles more of the middle than Harris does. I think Harris is far more on the left. And I've noticed in lawmaking, Republicans tend to be more willing to compromise. Even if they don't agree, they're willing to listen. They're willing to find common ground. The left, for instance, has no interest in compromising. Now, has that driven our country more to the left? Perhaps. I think your question is very valid, Billy, because I think that kind of no compromise stance that the left has, particularly like on abortion, for instance, kind of drives our way in that direction. But as somebody who's worked with lawmakers, I've noticed time and time again, Republicans are more willing to compromise than Democrats are.
I think so. Yeah. In many ways they are. I think they're weird. Okay. So weird's not the right word. There are times where the Democrats, I feel, hang on to their principles as absolutes more than conservatives do. Now, I'm not saying conservatives don't have absolute principles. They sure do. But I think that they are more malleable. And I think, to your point, Unfortunately, that is because of the previous 20 to 30 years in our country where it's been tacking a little bit more left.
Yeah, right.
And conservatives have had to, in order to get the stuff that they want to have done, they've had to compromise to get there. So I think how the structure works right now. I mean, you look at it, Colorado is a wonderful example. For conservatives to get anything accomplished at all, they've got to give at least 50% to the Dems or nothing happens. And the Dems can always come to the table and say, you
Our
know
way
what?
or the highway.
Yeah, get bent. What are you going to do? You're going to take your 13 people and go outside and yell at us? Who cares? I mean, Timmy Epps is the biggest example of them not giving a damn about what the electorate thought or felt. They appointed him, and then nicely, the Democrat primary voters threw him out. But that's an example of how they felt there was nothing they could do wrong.
Nothing. That's exactly right. So Kyle Rittenhouse, if you're just tuning in, not voting for Donald Trump. Donald Trump has compromised too much on the Second Amendment, Kyle claims, and therefore he'll be writing in Ron Paul instead. Good move, bad move. Did he just hand a vote to Joe Biden, or is it essential for conservatives to stand boldly on their principles? And if you're not with us all the way, we won't go for you at all. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Kyle Rittenhouse not supporting Donald Trump, claiming Trump is not that strong on the Second Amendment. He won't waste his vote because he's standing on principle. Lots of text messages coming in. Well, Kyle, you just flushed your vote down the toilet and gave it to Biden. What are you doing, man? Lots of text messages to that point. Let's check in with Mark in Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think I just heard Billy call Donald Trump the great uniter. He gets everybody to vote. And I think we should take every victory, small, one at a time. And like on abortion, Trump's at 15 weeks. Well, maybe by the end of his term, he's at 6 weeks. And he seems to be appointing judges that pass Senate confirmation, and they're there with it. These steps and this progress has never been made before.
Look, politics is the art of the possible, right? And so you got to move forward when you can. Some of the greatest victories we've ever had as a society came incrementally, like the abolition of the slave trade, right? First,
and our greatest,
yeah, I mean, first they couldn't just free all the slaves and provide civil rights for everybody. Culture wasn't ready for that. They had to first start with the end of the slave trade. Then they moved to freeing the slaves. Then they moved to civil rights. You have to, but I disagree with it, but the gay rights community did it as well with legalizing gay marriage. They didn't get it done all at once. They worked incrementally, civil unions, states, or some early states, and then eventually got to the U.S. Supreme Court, moved it forward that way. So you're not going to get everything right away. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, our greatest victory in Colorado was the Gallagher Amendment. It was a codified ratchet, and it kept things in line. And really, the voters got tricked out of, with the language on the ballot to get rid of it. And it was just a sad day. And I think things like that Gallagher amendment where they just ratchet. They just take one step and lock in.
So, Mark,
one step forward and lock in.
You think Second Amendment supporters should vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah, I do. I think everybody should vote for Donald Trump.
No, I'm with you.
I think everybody should, but because that's who we have in the race. We don't have this, candidate from heaven that drops down. We have Donald Trump, who's the closest thing to that, and he's our step forward. Kamala Harris sure isn't.
Yeah.
And
Mark, I'm with you on that this is a binary choice. And if you're a Second Amendment supporter, look for ways to put pressure on the administration, get people into positions in order to advance the Second Amendment agenda.
You're right,
even
Jeff.
if it's not your biggest, even if it's not the president's
and
top
the issue
priority.
being it's a binary choice. As we talk about on the show all the time, we don't like whataboutism. Well, what about this happening? No. This is the one time when the whataboutism is absolutely perfectly acceptable, because it is a what about the other choice. There are only two reasonable choices here. And so, yes, you sometimes may have to hold your nose and vote for someone that is not perfect, because you can't let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yep, that's right. Let's go to the phone lines. George Bronkler, candidate for Judicial District 23, is joining us. Tina Peters is on trial up in Mesa County, on trial for her handling of election equipment. Man, if I only knew a really talented prosecutor to provide us some insight on this. Mr. Bronkler, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
And can you give us the name of a prosecutor we can talk to?
Yeah, I wish. The two people prosecuting that case, by the way, thanks for having me on, are Dan Rubenstein, who's the elected DA, Republican, and he'll be a 2 or 3 time elected DA here after November. And then Rob Shapiro, who is a super senior prosecutor out of the AG's office. They're both tackling this thing, and it is in now day 3. Now, I haven't had a chance to watch much of the testimony, but I did watch the opening statements to get a sense of where they were going. And this is going to be a heck of a case. It's really going to be a heck of a case.
Well, what it seems to be, according to reports, is that attorneys in the trial agree on both sides that Tina Peters attempted to allow a non-county employee to access election equipment. They just differ on whether that constitutes a crime. Can you give us some insight on that?
Yeah, that's 100% right. I think what people need to know about, though, the process of Tina getting from what she did to the courtroom, it involves changing out defense attorneys maybe 4 or 5 times. I lost track. And because of that change in attorneys has also affected some of the theory of the case and the presentation. So at one point, Tina had Harvey Steinberg. Now, Harvey, long time, big time, very experienced, very successful defense attorney. In fact, he's the go-to for the Broncos and the Rockies. I mean, when they run into trouble, they pick up the phone and call Harvey. So he was on the case for a while, and they had a different approach. In fact, they had, before the first trial or this last trial got continued, they had some witnesses ginned up to more thoroughly tackle the issue of whether or not what Tina did was lawful, because that's a legit argument for some of this stuff. But those attorneys got replaced by the current batch of attorneys, and the current batch of attorneys is much more of the let's defend on the stolen election theory, which has been proven to be a loser in front of this judge over and over again in motions hearings. So when you watch the opening statements, what you see is there are things that the defense attorney stands up and starts to slip into that draw an objection that gets sustained by the judge, things like, hey, our prior court rulings, all this other stuff. And so it'll be fascinating to see as they roll through this, how much of the stolen election theory permeates the defense presentation of the case, either through cross-examination of the state witnesses or through their own presentation of witnesses.
So it sounds like they want to kind of elevate her as this great martyr, right? She believes so much in the idea that she's defending democracy, that this was her role as county clerk. She was compelled to do this. And in fact, if you didn't do it, you weren't a good county clerk. Is that essentially what they're trying to portray her as?
They don't get to say those words, but that's sort of the emotion that permeates what they're doing. And so remember, in the law, there is something called choice of evils. And that is basically, if I did something wrong, it was to prevent or address a much worse wrong. Now, that's already been rejected by the court. The court said, no, you can't do that. So they really have to dance on the head of a pin here on a couple issues to try to advance that. But in watching the opening statements, first off, Rob Shapiro gave the opening statement for the government. And Rob was very strong, but he always is. He's just a very strong, good, strong advocate. And he went right at the evidence. The defense attorney in this case had several objections sustained against her for dipping into things like, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about these next 7 felonies that Tina's charged with. Well, you can't get into the classification of charge in front of the jurors, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, because they're not to consider the potential punishment or ramifications beyond guilt or innocence. That makes total sense, right? But she does it a couple times. I can't tell if that's the products of whoops a couple times, straight up incompetence, or if that isn't a subtle reminder to the jurors that what you're hearing here is the kind of thing that could put the woman at that table in prison. So that's another pitch that they're trying to make, is whatever you think Tina Peters did here, is it worth the felony convictions? But to your point, Jeff, I think it's what they're going to argue is Tina Peters did all of these things. And even if you think she was acting surreptitiously by getting the fake ID and all this other stuff, even if you think that, the end of the day, what law, the hard part will be this guy that has to come in and talk about, yeah, they had me go and get an ID and then they never gave it to me and they never called me again. That is going to be a key witness to that defense.
Now, at the time that this all took place, was it a crime? Because from my understanding, Tina Peters' side is making the argument that, well, she was the guy there was always supervised, so he wasn't left alone, and making a copy of the voter data was not a crime in a sense. It seems like, from my understanding, become a crime since. Is that right or wrong?
They've definitely changed the rules since to address this particular issue. But, you know, there's a lot more going on than just that issue, because remember, it's not, hey, I made a copy of the data. The only way the Secretary of State becomes aware that this has even happened is because it leaks out into the internet. So whatever you think of the data being downloadable and savable by the clerk and recorder, it is not to be transmitted, of course, over the internet, and that's what happens. The other piece of this, though, is that the list of people that could be present for what they call what ends up being the erasing of this, but the rebuild is what they do. It's so tightly controlled that the Secretary of State's office sends out information multiple times to the clerk and recorder that says, if anybody outside of this pre-approved list is in the building when we come in to do this, and they're allowed to designate people as authorized, then we're just going to leave your office and we're going to go to the next county, and then you can figure out a way to bring your machines into Denver and we'll do it there. That's how controlled this information is between the Secretary of State and the clerk and recorder. So her allowing people not on the list using a fake ID to download this information and then to put it up in the cloud or on the internet, that is not protected by the law.
Now, does it have to be unanimous for her to be convicted? Is it 12 jurors? And if one says, you know, I may not like what she did, but I'm not sure I want to send her to jail for it, could she get off?
No, not on one. So it's got to be unanimous for a conviction, got to be unanimous for an acquittal. But the in-between part will be interesting. If one juror holds out, then that's called a hung jury. The prosecution has an opportunity to make a decision based on a finding by the court, and they will make this finding of manifest necessity in the interest of justice, that they can retry the case within 90 days unless each side agrees to a longer period of time. That'll be interesting. But what could happen here is that this jury could come back unanimous on some of the counts and hang on the others. And that'll be interesting for the prosecution. If they get a conviction on any of the felonies, will they go back to trial just to grab up the others? I guess it depends on which felonies, but you'd really have to decide, is this worth the taxpayer money at this point, since we already have her convicted?
Now, George Brockler joining Jeff and Bill live. He is candidate for Judicial District 23 right now. not sure if he has an opponent. I haven't seen the opponent. I'm sorry. I'm digressing.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think the Democrats are like,
they're
nah.
hiding. Like, no. I'm not even going to put up a webpage. All right.
His last opponent ended up on a yacht. So.
Yes. Oh, man. So, George, want to talk to you about Tina Peters changing lawyers. And again, this is just kind of the idea of, as a prosecutor, how difficult is it when the defense continuously changes lawyers? How does that gum up the works for the prosecution? And I'm not saying it is, but could some of these switches of law representation be meant to delay and to create just this kind of chaos? Just your opinion.
Yeah, for sure. It could be meant for delay. I mean, look, the Sixth Amendment is real and we embrace it. So we bend over backwards to accommodate defendants who make changes of attorneys, sometimes even repeatedly. There is a point at which, though, when, say, for instance, someone who's indigent or in custody continues to fire the public defender and then alternate defense counsel, that the court can come in and give something called an arguello advisement based on a case called arguello, and basically say, we're going to trial next time. If you show up with any other, it doesn't matter anymore, we're going to trial. Now, we didn't get there with this case. And I think we can speculate as to why attorneys get changed out. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's personality. But sometimes, and this is important for people to know, tactics in the courtroom belong to the attorney. So the attorney says, this is my philosophy of the case. This is the tactics. Of course, they're consulting with their client. But if their client says, I don't like that, I want you to beat the stolen election drum as hard as you can, I can see, without knowing this, I can see prior attorneys saying, I'm not your guy or gal. You need to go a different direction.
That makes sense.
I don't feel comfortable doing that.
George Brockler will continue to follow the Tina Peters case in Mesa County. Hope you can join us to continue to give us updates. So grateful you're taking time to be with us today. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me, gents. Keep kicking butt. Damn, nice show.
You're the best. Have a great weekend.
Always good to hear from George Brockler. All right, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Test.
Okay, count to 5 for me, please.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's been an absolutely fantastic show, covering everything from Evan Gershkovich to the monthly jobs report to Tina Peters, and now men punching women in the face as an Olympic sport. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Enjoy your weekend.